Good evening. It's 6 p.m. Today is August 21st, 2025. This is the Planning and Zoning meeting of the City of Boca Raton. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have any amendments to the agenda? I don't think so. Okay, the first item on the agenda to handle is the minutes of the meeting of July 17, 2025. I'll look for a motion in a second.
So motioned.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No? Unanimous. Okay, the next items are quasi-judicial, and I will ask the city... Excuse me? Oh, yeah. Jamie, please call the roll.
Chair Savelle?
Here.
Mr. Salon? Ms. Ritchie?
Here.
Ms. McDermott?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Morgan?
Here.
And Mr. Dornblazer?
Here.
You have a quorum.
We have quasi-judicial meetings this evening. I ask the city attorney to please explain the procedure.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Chris Fernandez, Assistant City Attorney. The rules of the City Council provide that each applicant requesting approval, relief, or other action from the Planning and Zoning Board shall disclose at the commencement or continuance of the public hearing any consideration provided or committed directly or on its behalf for an agreement to support or withhold objection to the requested relief or action. A copy of the quasi-judicial rules governing tonight's public hearing are attached to the agenda and are available from the City Clerk.
Thank you. The first item, 5A, is AutoZone. Jamie, please read this item into the record.
AutoZone, 104 Northwest 20th Street. A resolution of the City of Boca Raton considering for the approximately 0.51 acre property generally located at 104 Northwest 20th Street, a conditional use approval to authorize approximately 10,560 square feet of retail use in an existing building in the M2 General Industrial Zoning District, providing for repeal or providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Any ex parte communications on this item with anyone? I didn't think so. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Heather Hansen for a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Heather Hansen, and I have been sworn in. Have we been sworn in?
Yeah, let's take a step back. Would anyone that's going to speak this evening please rise and be sworn in, no matter what the item is?
Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give at this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Now proceed.
Brandon just said it was perjury on my part. The half-acre property is located in the M2 General Industrial District, just west of Dixie Highway and the FEC railway tracks on the northeast corner of Northwest 20th Street and Northwest 1st Avenue. The building was constructed in the 1950s and is non-conforming as to setbacks as well as the number and design of off-street parking spaces. Between the 1950s and 1978, retail was a permitted use in the M2 district. In 1978, there was a code amendment that allowed retail uses under 1,000 square feet as a permitted use, and retail more than 1,000 square feet and less than 20,000 square feet as a conditional use in the M2 district. While there have been various retail uses in the building since the 1950s, the building was most recently occupied by Boca Raton Small Engines since 1980s, a landscape equipment supply business, which was permitted under a combination of machinery and farm implement sales and repair garages. The applicant requested a change of use for an AutoZone store, which is when it was determined that a conditional use approval is required, since the retail use is more than 1,000 square feet. The non-conforming section of the code provides that when the existing use of a portion or all of a structure is changed, additional off-street parking facilities shall be provided to the extent that the off-street parking required for the new use exceeds the off-street parking for the previous use. However, the previous use, the parking for that was classified as retail for the purposes of parking since at least the 1980s. So the new use does not increase the code-required parking and is not required to comply with the current code requirements for parking. However, they are proposing some improvements to the existing parking lot as well as landscaping. So in the current conditions, there are 2 queen palms here on, here on Northwest 20th. There's an asphalt driveway that someone put in a very strange location. It goes right into the parking spaces. So that's not safe and it's unsightly. The pavement and a grassy area they have on the south side here. And then there's rock along the eastern side adjacent to the railroad tracks. So the proposed site improvements that they are making include the addition of royal palms and shrubs, cocoa plum shrubs along Northwest 20th, so that will look a lot nicer. The removal of that asphalt driveway that I showed you, that's where this landscaping is going to be, so that'll look so much better. They're increasing the parking spaces from 10 to 12, and one of them will be ADA van accessible. There's an addition of perimeter trees and shrubs on the south side, and I'll show you photos real quickly of what it currently looks like now from street view. It does not look very pleasant looking at the auto repair shop to the south. And they had they went to CAB for a preliminary review on this last Tuesday night, and the CAB recommended adding a hedge along where the railroad tracks are on the inside of the fence along here to screen the building because it's very visible from Dixie Highway, and the applicant did agree to do that. It's staff's opinion that, given that AutoZone is moving into an existing building on a site that basically looks the same as it did when it was developed in the 1950s, the improvements they are proposing are significant for what is essentially a change of use. So I'll just go quickly through the existing conditions from the street view. So this asphalt driveway is the one that will be removed, and it will become part of the landscape strip. And they'll add more of the palms and shrubs, as I mentioned. This is currently their main entrance, which will be removed, and they're adding like a garage door kind of a deal. And the new parking spaces, will be going along there. Right now, they're not. The stripes have all faded. This is the southern side that I was mentioning, where they're going to put the trees and shrubs, and that's the auto repair place there on the right. And then at the back of this paved area, there's going to be a dumpster enclosure, and that's where their dumpster is going to go. And this is currently how it looks from the railroad tracks. It's very visible, and it does not look very nice. In a photo, like about 2 years older, you could see a very dense, tall Collusia shrub that screened it quite a bit, but then The railroad took it out. They just don't want to have to maintain anything, so they took out a lot of their improvements along the railroad tracks throughout the state. So the application meets the code criteria for approval of a conditional use. It's compatible with the existing and planned development, and the character and district is suitable for the use. The existing building, property, and infrastructure are adequate for the use, and no adverse impacts are anticipated. And the property is owned M2 with a compatible future land use of general industrial, and the M2 zoning district permits retail uses conditionally. So the Development Services Department recommends approval of the conditional use amendment, subject to the conditions set forth.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Mr. Dornblaser? No. Ms. Ritchie? Mr. Mitchell?
None.
No? None. Mr. Morgan? No. Okay. Chair has no questions. With that, is anyone from AutoZone here? Yes. Okay. Would you like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. My name is Mario Amador, and I'm here on behalf of AutoZone regarding our request for a conditional use permit. Firstly, thank you to the Planning Department for all your help along the way. Ms. Hansen's presentation perfectly describes our project. I will only reiterate today. As part of this request, we are proposing a full remodel of the existing commercial building to prepare for retail use. Exterior improvements will consist of repainting, installation of new storefronts within existing openings, upgraded lighting, refreshed landscaping, decorative elements, and resealing and restriping of the parking lot, as mentioned, along with other requirements from the Community Appearance Board to upfit the property. Our goal is to revitalize the property to serve the community with a modern, well-designed AutoZone store, while enhancing the site's appearance and functionality. I don't have a slideshow prepared, but I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Anyone have any questions? Petition? Seeing none? No. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Does anybody else in this room want to speak to this issue? Okay. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Look for a motion and a second for the conditional use approval, item 5A.
Motion to approve.
So seconded.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none. Jamie, please call the roll.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Dornblaser?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie?
Yes.
And Chair Savelle?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Martin Manor, excuse me, Martin Manor Phase 2. Items 5B1 and 5B2 will be discussed contemporaneously but voted on separately. Jemmy, would you please read these into the record?
Martin Manor Phase 2, 1350 North Dixie Highway. Number 1 is an ordinance of the City of Boca Raton considering for the approximately 10.04 acre property located generally at 1350 North Dixie Highway, an amendment to the Universal Conditional UC Future Land Use Map Amendment, ordinance number 5693, specifically an amendment to Exhibit 1 thereof to provide for construction of 2 additional 3-story buildings, to add 105 low-income housing units to the multifamily residential project for a total of 200 low-income housing units on site, with related site improvements subject to conditions providing for repealer, providing an effective date. And 2 is a resolution of the City of Boca Raton considering for the residences at Martin Manor Phase 2 project on the approximately 10.04 acre property, generally located at 1350 North Dixie Highway, a site plan amendment pursuant to a universal conditional request to authorize the construction of 2 additional 3-story buildings with an additional 105 low-income housing units for a total of 200 low-income housing units on the site, totaling 98,738 square feet, with related site improvements, including the construction of a new 6-foot-wide sidewalk along North Dixie Highway and an 8-foot-wide sidewalk along Glades Road, with street trees, together with a technical deviation from Section 28-1655-1B Code of Ordinances, to reduce the number of required vehicular parking spaces from 393 spaces to 259 spaces, a reduction of 134 spaces, and 2 variances from Section 28-673 Code of Ordinances to allow a street south yard setback of 28 feet in lieu of the minimum 32 feet required, and to allow a side east yard setback of 25 feet in lieu of the minimum 62 feet required, and considering the abandonment of a portion of a utility easement, providing for repeal or providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Ex parte communications on this one, Mr. Morgan?
Yeah, I had a brief conversation with Ellie Zacharias on this.
Ms. McDermott?
Same. I spoke to Ellie.
Mr. Mitchell?
Same, I spoke to Ellie.
Ms. Ritchie?
I spoke to Ellie Zacharias.
Mr. Dornblaser?
I had none.
I spoke to Ellie Zacharias as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Jacob Gurman for the city's presentation.
Good evening, Chair and board members. My name is Jacob Gurman, Planner 2 for the city, and I'll be presenting the Residences at Martin Manor Phase 2 project located at 1350 North Dixie Highway. The project is proposing to redevelop the southern portion of the approximately 10.04 acre property that is located at the northeast corner of the intersection of North Dixie Highway and Glades Road, adjacent to Hughes Park and Lincoln Court. The property is zoned R5A multifamily residential and has a future land use designation of RH or residential high. The applicant is requesting a universal conditional amendment for the authorization of the construction of 2 additional 3-story buildings totaling approximately 98,738 square feet, with an additional 105 low-income housing units for a total of 200 low-income housing units on the property, with related on-site and off-site landscaping and hardscaping improvements, together with a technical deviation from Section 1655(1)B to reduce the required vehicular parking spaces from 393 spaces to 259 spaces, and with 2 variances from Section 28-673 Code of Ordinances to reduce the minimum required south street yard setback from 32 feet to 28 feet, and to reduce the minimum required east side yard setback from 62 feet to 25 feet, and with the abandonment of an approximately 1,255 square foot portion of an existing utility easement. On May 14th, 2024, City Council approved a universal conditional application for the development of Phase 1 for the Residences of Martin Manor, which included a flume amendment, rezoning, conditional use, site plan, and variances. Phase 1 of the Residences of Martin Manor consisted of the redevelopment of the northern portion of the property, which included the construction of 3 3-story buildings with a total of 95 low-income housing units, a clubhouse building, and outdoor amenity area, while preserving a community center and maintenance building. Phase 1 also consisted of on-site and off-site improvements, which included the construction of a new 6-foot wide meandering sidewalk along North Dixie Highway with street trees. Once the construction of Phase 1 has been complete, all of the remaining residential structures will be demolished, except for one of the 1940s buildings, as required by condition of approval number 6 of resolution number 37/2024, which required the applicant to preserve at least one of the existing 1940s buildings for preservation and historical purposes, and it specified that such building shall not be occupied for residential purposes. This project will construct 2 new 3-story buildings, buildings 4 and 5, and the existing 1940s buildings, along with a pavilion area located on the southern half of the property. Building 4 is centrally located within the property. It's a 24-unit, 3-story, approximately 21,255 square foot multifamily residential building. And Building 5 is L-shaped and located along the southern and eastern property line. It is an 81-unit, 3-story, approximately 77,483 square foot multifamily residential building. The 1940s building to be preserved is located along the western property line, south of the southern driveway entrance. It is a 1-story, approximately 4,800 square foot building. New sidewalks will be constructed to connect this building to the rest of the site. This project also includes the construction of a new 6-foot wide meandering sidewalk along North Dixie Highway and an 8-foot wide sidewalk along Glades Road, both of which will have street trees. And then there will be the undergrounding of utility lines along North Dixie and Glades Road as conditioned in the accompanying site plan resolution. Pedestrian access will be added along Glades Road via 2 5-foot wide sidewalk connections. One connection extends from an internal sidewalk that connects Building 4 and the pavilion area to Glaze Road, and the other connection extends from Building 5 to Glaze Road. These connections are located near the southwestern and the southeastern corners of the property. Along North Dixie Highway, Gumbo Limbo, 2 Cuban laurel, and 2 strangler figs are proposed to be preserved, and 4 new live oaks are proposed to be installed. Along Glades Road, 7 mature live oak trees are proposed to be preserved, and 5 new live oak trees are proposed to be installed. And the 2 existing banyan trees located near the southwest corner of the property will remain as required by condition of approval number 8 of Resolution 37, 2024. Staff supports the requested technical deviation from Section 281655-1B for a reduction in the required parking. The project will be adding 105 units to the 95-unit low-income housing development. As this project is a low-income housing project, as stated in the project's traffic study, a low-income housing development typically has fewer vehicles on site, which result in lesser parking demand. The applicant's traffic study found that the demand of the existing low-income housing development resulted in 1.1 spaces per unit, which resulted in 220 parking spaces. The project will provide 259 total parking spaces, 244 spaces for the multifamily residential buildings, and 15 for the nursery and after-school program, which was approved with Phase 1. By providing less parking than required, more open and green space is able to be preserved and utilized on the property. As previously stated, the applicant is requesting 2 variances from Section 28673 Code of Ordinances to reduce the required yard setback requirements for the street and side yards. The minimum required street and side yards is 25 feet in the R5A zoning district. However, greater street yards are required when the structure exceeds 25 feet in height. When this occurs, the setback shall increase by 1 foot for each additional 2 feet in height. There are also 2 additional setback requirements for side yards relating to the building's height and overall length of the building. The first additional requirement increases setback by 1 foot for each additional 2 feet in height when the structure exceeds 25 feet. The second requirement applies only if the overall building length exceeds 100 feet in length. For then, the setback shall be increased by 1 foot for every 10 feet in length or fraction thereof, up to including 200 feet, and for 1 foot for every 5 feet in length or fraction thereof, over 200 feet, up to and including 400 feet. Due to the additional setback requirements related to building height and length, the minimum required front and side setbacks are greater than 25 feet as indicated in the table. The applicant has requested a setback variance from the south and east property lines. The required setback for Building 5 along the southern property line is 32 feet, and the applicant has provided 28 feet. The required setback for Building 5 along the eastern property line is 62 feet, and the applicant has provided 25 feet. Staff supports the requested variance as it allows the applicant to bring the building closer to the street, preserve green space, and allow the parking to remain internal to the project. And now, this application also includes the abandonment of an approximately 1,255 square foot portion of an existing utility easement. The easement proposed to be abandoned is highlighted in red. This easement is located at the southwest corner of the property, which is required to be abandoned as the Phase 1 site plan included a right-of-way dedication that encompassed a portion of the existing easement. A new utility easement will be created within the surface parking lot located in the southern portion of the property, and staff has no objections to the easement abandonment proposed with this application. During the analysis of this application, staff found that the project will add an additional 105 low-income housing units to the property. It will preserve the existing 1940s building on the property, construct new sidewalks with street trees along North Dixie Highway and Glades Road, preserve the existing mature live oak trees along Glades Road. The proposed variance will allow the project to bring the buildings closer to the street, preserve green space, and minimize visual impact of the surface parking lots. The technical deviation will reduce the number of parking spaces and allow the project to provide more green space, and staff supports the abandonment. The project was heard at the CAB meeting on July 15th, 2025, and was formally recommended approval with conditions in a vote of 6-0. They were to provide more landscaping to screen the AC units and move the downspouts to be hidden from the front facades and paint match them to the building. The applicant has made the necessary revisions to the project to comply with these conditions. As such, no new conditions have been added. And the Development Service Department recommends approval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Mr. Morgan? Ms. McDermott? Mr. Mitchell?
None.
Ms. Ritchie?
Real quick, how
Mr.
many
Goldblazer?
units are on site currently that, between Phase 1 and Phase 2, that are getting replaced with 200 units now?
So for Phase 1 replaced 95 units with 95 units. There was a condition to allow the housing on the southern portion of the property to remain until the buildings on the northern portion of the property were CO'd, and that was just to allow residents to remain on site, and then once those buildings are completed, those residents that live there can move into the project. I do know that construction has started, although I don't know exactly how many units are currently remaining on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing and ask the petitioner to come up and make her presentation. Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Ellie Zacharias, Miskell Backman, 14 Southeast 4th Street. Mr. Dornblazer, there are 47 units remaining on site. Thank you. I will be extremely brief. Jacob, always a pleasure working with you. Thank you for your very thorough presentation. The property sits on the northeast corner of Glaze and Dixie, is approximately 10 acres, and as Jacob noted, it was improved with 95 units spread out across those 10 units. The previous zoning prior to our rezoning and comp plan amendment was R3 with an RM future land use, which allowed 9.5 units to the acre. We previously were before you, and thank you for your support. We secured a future land use amendment and a rezoning to make way for this Phase 2. So with the 95 units, what we did is we consolidated them pretty much on the northern half, while maintaining those 47 units on the southern half just for housing while the new units are being built, and then those will be demolished. We also secured a site plan approval for those 95 units, and I am proud to announce that construction is very much underway and is going vertical on those 95 units. So now let's talk a little bit about what is before you this evening for Phase 2. So this is the site plan. Let me see if I can do this. So this is Building 4, which will house 24 units in a 3-story building. This L shape is Building 5, which will house 81 units also in a 3-story building. And this is the existing building that will remain, that is just shy of 4,800 square feet. As Jacob noted, we are adding significant sidewalks both on Glades and Dixie and improving those with tree-lined streets, tree-lined sidewalks, I should say. So let's talk a little bit about the existing building and how we plan on utilizing it. We had the pleasure of meeting on multiple occasions with the Historical Society. And inside, if you go to Old Town Hall, you see they have these little areas, little rooms of interactive exhibits. So we really want to bring that to life into this existing 1940s building and pay homage to the history of Dixie Manor, now being referred to as Martin Manor in honor of Louise Martin, and all that she did for Martin Manor and Dixie Manor. So that is kind of what we were thinking within the existing building. We're also looking to, and this is a floor plan, but I'll zoom into it. Most of that interactive exhibit will happen over here. We also wanted to provide a community space for the residents as well. So I call it a very large living room that has a lounge and a sitting area, but there's also areas for a kids' room. There's also a computer room. There's also areas for a library and classroom. This will be in addition to already having the community center as part of Phase 1, because there is already one there for Phase 1 as well. Okay, so some relief. We have cut our request in half from Phase 1, but we do still have 2 asks. The first is regarding the variance. As Jacob noted, The base setback is 25 feet, but that gets increased by the height of the building as well as the length of the building. So this building 5 here actually abuts a park. Like, there's literally no building there. It is a park. But yet this building would be required to be set back 62 feet. So in lieu of doing so, and by the way, if I may add, we've been a little restricted in how we laid out this floor plan or site plan, because we're keeping the interactive building, which was a request of the residents, and there are also significant banyan and mature oak trees on site that they very much wanted to keep, and I couldn't agree with them more. So it was a puzzle piece. It was very difficult to figure out how to lay out the site when we were keeping the existing building and keeping significant amount of trees. So in lieu of not being able to provide the 105 affordable, much-needed units, introducing those new units into the city of Boca, we decided to ask for a variance request. But again, in both cases, we meet or exceed the minimum 25-foot setback. We've met with staff, and they've been extremely helpful. As Jacob noted, that setback, pulling the buildings closer to the street, allows us to hide the surface parking lot and also provides more green space for the residents and the children in Martin Manor. And staff recommends approval. The technical deviation, as Jacob noted, this is identical to the technical deviation we requested for Phase 1. Not only does ITE and ULI support this type of parking ratio, but more importantly, in my mind, is John Donaldson, our traffic engineer, prior to any demolition occurring, had done a significant parking demand study on site to see what's actually there. So we are very comfortable with the 1.1 parking spaces per unit, and staff recommends approval for that. And I think that's a pretty picture, and I think that concludes my presentation.
You have 14 minutes left.
I don't need it.
Okay.
I think we have some time here tonight.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Morgan?
I don't have any questions. I'm glad to see the introduction of another 105 units in advance of the Affordable Housing Committee meetings for this year that are beginning next week. So it's exciting to come into those meetings with that.
Thank you. I'm glad you share the excitement, because I too am very excited. We are in desperate need for affordable, like true affordable housing in our city. And I know the Housing Authority has had a wait list that's extremely long waiting for housing.
Mr. McDermott?
Thanks.
Mr. Mitchell?
Who owns the park? Is that a city park?
It's owned by the city of Boca Raton.
Okay. That's the only question I had.
Ms. Ritchie? Ms. Stormblazer? No. Chair has no questions.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, it's a public hearing. Is there anyone else in this room that would like to speak on this matter? Last call. Okay. Then I'll move ahead, look for a motion and a second for item 5B, which is the future land use map amendment.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none. Jamie, please call the roll.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Dornblazer?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie?
Yes.
And Chair Savelle?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Okay. Next is item 5B2, which is the recommendation of City Council regarding the site plan resolution. Look for a motion and a second.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing none. Okay. Jamie, please call the roll.
Mr. Dornblazer?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie?
Yes.
Chair Savelle?
Yes.
And Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Okay. Next item is Meisner Plaza and sale of city-owned property. Items 5C1 and 5C2 will be conducted contemporaneously, but voted on separately. With that, I'll ask Jamie to read these items into the record.
Meisner Plaza and sale of city-owned property, 132, 170, and 190 Northeast 2nd Street. The first is a consideration of an individual development approval, IDA, by the Boca Raton Community Redevelopment Agency for the Meisner Plaza Hotel project on 3 parcels totaling approximately 1.94 acres, generally located at 132, 170, and 190 Northeast 2nd Street, the latter of which is an approximately 0.29 acre property currently owned by the city and subject to a contingent sale agreement. To authorize construction of a 12-story, 271,412 square foot, 242-room hotel, which includes a combination of individual rooms and suites, 34,840 square feet of retail high, consisting of 16,000 square feet of restaurant use and 18,840 square feet of retail, and internal structured parking totaling 152,322 square feet, with a maximum height not to exceed 140 feet, 0 inches, with architectural features with a maximum total height not to exceed 141 feet, 6 inches, together with a technical deviation from paragraph 24B3 of the DDRI development order to reduce the required number of off-street parking spaces from 569 spaces to 372 spaces, a reduction of 197 spaces, and a transfer of 179,421 square feet of office equivalent development based upon an equivalence factor for retail, office, and residential from downtown subareas D, E, and G to downtown subarea B, resulting in approximately 83,217 square feet of office equivalent development remaining in downtown subarea B, approximately 324,383 square feet of office equivalent development remaining in downtown subarea D, approximately 35,159 square feet of office equivalent development remaining in downtown subarea E, and approximately 99,425 square feet of office equivalent development remaining in downtown subarea G, and including conversion of uses within subarea B, providing for repeal or providing an effective date. Is there a number 2? 2 is an ordinance of City of Boca Raton authorizing the conditional conveyance of a parcel of city-owned land pursuant to Chapter 13, Article 3, Sale of City Property, Code of Ordinances, consisting of approximately 0.2892 acres and generally located at 190 Northeast 2nd Street, authorizing the execution of a purchase and sale agreement providing for conditional credits against the purchase price in partial consideration of the purchaser's construction and maintenance of public improvements, authorizing a temporary construction easement to allow the purchaser to commence development on the property prior to the conveyance, providing for severability, providing for repeal, or providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Ex parte communications on this one. Mr. Dornblaser?
I had a call with Ellie Zacharias.
Ms. Ritchie?
I spoke with Ellie Zacharias and Neil Schiller.
Okay. Mr. Mitchell?
I spoke with some residents at 155 and Ellie.
Okay. Ms. McDonald?
I spoke with Ellie.
Mr. Morgan?
I had a conversation with Ellie.
Okay. I had a conversation with Ellie as well, and I received an email from Neil Schiller requesting a conversation and agreed to it, and the conversation never happened. With that, I'll turn it over to Susan Lesser and Aaron Sita, who are going to do a joint presentation.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair Seville, members of the board, Susan Lesser, Senior Planner. The applicant is requesting an individual development approval to redevelop the site located at 132, 170, and 190 Northeast 2nd Street with a 12-story hotel, 34,840 square feet of retail high, and 152,322 square feet of internal structured parking. The height is proposed at 140 feet, 0 inches, with a maximum total height, including architectural features, of 141 feet, 6 inches. The application is subject to the interim design guidelines, the IDG, which allows for certain design flexibility and greater height, with a maximum of 140 feet and with a maximum total height with architectural features of 160 feet. The request also includes a technical deviation from paragraph 24B3 of the DDRI development order to reduce the required number of off-street parking spaces from the required 569 parking spaces to 372 parking spaces, or a 197-space reduction. And also to authorize a transfer of office equivalent development from downtown subarea D, E, and G to downtown subarea B, including a conversion of uses. The property is zoned DDRI with a compatible future land use designation of CBD, and again, that's within downtown subarea B. The approximate 1.93 acre site is located directly south of Northeast 2nd Street, west of Northeast Meisner Boulevard, east of Northeast 1st Ave, and an approximate 0.29 acre city-owned parcel at 190 Northeast 2nd, and that's highlighted in red in the aerial, and that's adjacent to Northeast Meisner Boulevard. The site plan proposes a 242-room hotel, 271,412 square feet at 12 stories with a mix of uses. 34,840 square feet of retail is on the first two levels, and 152,322 square feet of below-grade structured parking. A signature staircase is proposed along the northern frontage of the building adjacent to Northeast 2nd Street. Oops, let me just go back here. Let's see, right in this area here. And that's approximately 20 feet tall and 56 feet 4 inches wide, and that is aligned with the south entrance to Meisner Park across Northeast 2nd Street. The southern boundary of the property is formed by an alley which runs east-west, and the current platted alley width is 16 feet, and the alley is proposed to be widened to 20 feet to accommodate two-way traffic flow that serves the site. And as part of the project, it will be the primary vehicular access to the property, and vehicles access the alley via a full access on Northeast 1st Avenue and a right-in, right-out access on Northeast Meisner Boulevard. The required rear setback along the southern property is 0 feet, and the applicant has designed the project to provide a rear setback that ranges from 15 feet and through to 18 feet. An existing bicycle lane along Northeast 2nd Street will be improved to a 5-foot wide dedicated east-west bicycle lane that also will be separated from the existing vehicle travel lane, and it's proposed along the entire length of the property between Northeast 1st Avenue and Northeast Meisner Boulevard, and connect with existing bicycle lanes east and west of the property. The remaining 0.29 acres of property, which is proposed to be improved with a park, and the property is currently owned by the city and is developed with a city-owned surface parking lot. And as previously mentioned, the application for the sale of the city-owned parcel has been submitted under a separate application, and the application and sale application are each contingent upon the approval and implementation of the other. The required open space is 40%, and 46%, or 33,324 square feet, is provided as open space. And open to the sky is depicted in green. Covered open space is depicted in yellow, and up to 35% of the total required open space may be covered, and the project provides for 34% covered open space. The project complies with the comprehensive plan and the amended downtown plan. For example, the project complies with land use policy LU.3.2.2, as it provides a mix of retail and public uses consistent with the downtown master plan as amended and updated. And based on the overall design of the project, staff finds that the proposed site design is consistent with the following policies of the amended downtown plan, such as urban design policy 1.1, as it provides a continuous and inviting system of pedestrian streets, urban design policy 1.6, which calls for projects that emphasizes facades as major elements of the overall streetscape, and a positive pedestrian experience is a fundamental plan goal, and the relationship of projects to adjacent streets and sidewalks is a key element of achieving that goal. Urban Design Policy 1.7 encourages the development of vistas and views as part of major projects, and the project is also in compliance with the more recently adopted ordinances, which expand and update the architectural and design standards in the downtown. The proposed development is expected to generate an additional 1,407 daily trips, 53 a.m. and 74 p.m. peak hour trips, and as the project is within the Boca Downtown Development of Regional Impact, or the DDRI, a TPS letter from Palm Beach County is not required. A request was submitted for a technical deviation from the DDRI Development Order Paragraph 2 for B3 to reduce the number of required off-street parking spaces. That's a reduction of 197 parking spaces, and the request is using alternate rates as well as the city's code shared parking analysis. Additionally, a total of 27 existing parking spaces will be replaced. To justify the technical deviation, parking analysis and justification was prepared by the project engineer, JMD Engineering, and that states that the parking requirements in the downtown are out of date. Specific to Meisner Plaza, the required parking for the proposed development is unreasonably high and not in touch with current and future parking demand in a downtown city center area. Furthermore, Ordinance 4035 uses rates for a downtown that are over 40 years old. Until such time that Ordinance 4035 is revised to reflect parking calculations in line with the downtown, is revised to reflect parking calculations. All proposed developments will be significantly overparked in our downtown. The applicant is requesting a technical deviation for a reduction of parking in order to provide parking based on a realistic parking demand. And as such, the applicant has requested a technical deviation to reduce the required off-street parking spaces using the alternate required rates for the project and applying shared parking analysis. The parking demand is reduced by 35% by utilizing the ITE rates for dense multi-use urban rates and an enhanced TDM. And the study confirms that the proposed rates are consistent with the City of West Palm Beach as well as Palm Beach County parking requirements. This is the north elevation. The project, as I mentioned, is designed pursuant to the IDG, which provides for revised setbacks, building height, massing, and articulation for portions of the building known as the Architectural Opportunity Zone, or AOZ. And meeting these requirements, including the ability to exceed the 100 feet limitation that is otherwise applicable to non-IDG buildings. The building meets massing standards of the IDG as 20% of the 35% of the AOZ volume limitation is used. Therefore, the CRA board may grant the additional 40 feet for a total of 140 feet in height. This is the south elevation and the east and west elevations. The project was reviewed at the July 1st, 2025 CAB meeting, and the board recommended approval. The vote was 5-0. And city staff recommends approval with conditions as the project complies with Ordinance 4035. The city's urban design consultant also reviewed the project and found it to be consistent with Ordinance 4035 and all of its appendices, and staff supports the applicant's request as proposed. And now Erin Sita will continue the presentation with the sale of city-owned property.
Good evening. Erin Sita, Deputy Director for Development Services, for the record. The sale of city-owned property is a component of this request. James and Marta Batmazian have requested to purchase approximately 0.3 acre city-owned property located at 190 2nd Street. This is a required component of the IDA as currently proposed because a portion of the underground parking garage will be on the property. And I'll just also note, I know concern was brought up that the conveyance was linked to Meisner Lot Investments, LLC. And I'll just note that Mr. Batmazian is the managing member of that LLC. So the purchaser is the same, it just will be officially conveyed to an LLC through the documents. What is interesting also about this sale is that that a portion of the parcel is actually within the Northeast Meisner Boulevard right-of-way, but it's actually fee simple owned. So again, as part of the sale, the eastern portion of the parcel will be required to be dedicated back to the city as right-of-way. So Article 3 of Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances addresses the sale of city-owned property, and some of the requirements within that, within those provisions are, one is the adoption of an ordinance by the City Council with review and recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Board. And the text actually calls you to study this issue. So in your review tonight, you are studying and reviewing the item and then providing a recommendation. So we are in receipt of a current fair market value by an independent third-party appraiser, Walter Duke and Partners, for the appraised value and ultimately purchase price of $2,370,000. Now, this excludes the right-of-way. We did request a previous appraisal, which resulted in a higher value, but the per acre price didn't change between the appraisals. The previous appraisal included the right-of-way area, which the applicant requested that we remove from the appraisal because we would be getting it dedicated back to the city as a condition of the sale, which is why of the price difference between the initial appraisal that we requested and then the subsequent revision before you. Also a requirement of Chapter 13 is that a deposit of 10% of the total purchase price is required prior to introduction of the ordinance before council. As of this moment, this item has not been scheduled for a specific council date, and we are not yet in receipt of that deposit. I guess I could hit all those. So the applicant is seeking full credit of the purchase price for the construction of 17 replacement parking spaces in the underground garage and the construction and maintenance of the proposed park. So in the plan, the area, the at-grade area, would be used as a kind of plaza-like park and would be open and accessible to the public. A condition of approval of the IDA and the sale would be that there would, on this at-grade park area, the applicant would have to record a public park easement to ensure public access to that area. So staff does not support that request, and instead staff is recommending a partial credit towards the purchase price with very specific conditions. The first one is a public improvement credit. Our Public Works and Engineering developed some park construction costs, which are in attachment I of your packet, and they estimated a construction value because of some of the proposed concepts within the park at about just shy of $1 million, $986,442. And again, staff is recommending also a perpetual maintenance credit with a perpetual maintenance agreement. And what this maintenance agreement basically says, if the park is no longer maintained, then the applicant will need to refund the city the $500,000 if the maintenance of the park is not consistent with city, with basically the provisions of the agreement. There will also be a total cash payment of $888,558, which includes the 10% deposit and the net cash payment of $645,000. Also, as a part of this agreement and the purchase and sale agreement is a $2 million, just over $2 million letter of credit as a security for payment within 30 days of the effective date of the purchase and sale agreement. Basically, if City Council were to approve this agreement, within 30 days, the applicant is required to give us a letter of credit for just over $2 million to ensure that if the public improvements are done and the sale commences, that we will get the full market value of the property. Satisfaction of all sale conditions is required within 4 years and prior to conveyance of the property. So we're not actually going to convey the property until final completion of the entire project. And this would include the as-built drawings certified by a licensed architect or engineer and a certificate of completion by the building department. In addition, the execution of all legal instruments, such as the unity of title, the right-of-way dedication, and the public access easements would have to be executed by the applicant. And all of these instruments are required by IDA condition number 5E. So the sale of city-owned property, we believe that this is consistent with Chapter 13, Article 3. The applicant has provided all the documents. We believe the property is surplus to the needs of the city and cannot reasonably be used by a purchaser as not the adjoining property because of its size and the fact that a portion of it is really essentially a right-of-way. Staff recommends approval of the attached ordinance for the sale of city-owned property, and we are looking forward to your comments and questions on this particular item. Did you have something else?
Are you done? You're done? Both of you? Okay. Questions for staff? Mr. Dornblaser?
None right now.
Okay. Ms. Ritchie?
Yeah, I have a question on how 5C1 and 2 play on each other. Are they contingent on each other? I mean, can we approve sub 1 and not sub 2, or do they both have to be approved for this to go forward today?
Brandon Ch, Development Services Director. They're contingent entirely on each other.
Okay. And so I understood that if this property is not built within 4 years, the property will not be conveyed to the developer, is that correct?
Yes, according to the ordinance and purchase and sale agreement.
Are they entitled to extensions for any reason? I mean, could we see this go on for beyond 4 years?
So the way the ordinance for the sale was written was for conveyance in 4 years. We don't believe that that's subject to the tolling, but if it is determined later that it is subject to tolling, then at the state level, then our hands would be tied by the state of Florida, but we don't believe that it is.
How would we find that out?
It's one of those legal issues that we don't know the answer to until it comes up, but it does not appear that the sale would be subject to being automatically extended pursuant to disaster declarations by the state.
Could we write that into the contract?
We can explore that.
Okay. And then my other question is, with regard to the calculation of the perpetual maintenance credit, what was that based on?
I wish I had our Director of Public Works and Engineering, but they looked at, I believe we looked at maintenance costs over a certain time period. I think it might have been like a period of like 15 years or some extended time period, and then that credit was based on that. So the idea is the credit is not really a credit. The maintenance is in perpetuity, but the credit was not in perpetuity for what it would typically cost the city.
Okay, thank you.
Our Public Works Director is here if you want.
Oh, yay.
They summoned me, so I appeared.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I was not sworn in as well, so I need to do that.
Yes,
my
please
name
do.
is.
But stop.
Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give at this public hearing will be truthful and accurate?
I do.
Thanks.
Okay. Now you go ahead.
Hi, Zach
Thank
Beer,
you.
Public Works and Engineering Director for the City of Boca Raton. Could you repeat the comment or question really quick?
I was asking how the perpetual maintenance credit was calculated.
So for the perpetual maintenance credit, it was over, as Aaron had noted.
I believe it was 20 years. It may have been 15. It was about that time frame. I just don't have I was not expecting that question, so I don't have that specific year, but it was over about a 15 to 20 year period that we calculated the estimated number.
Yeah, that's my recollection as well, but I would have to check, I would have to go back and check for a specific date.
Thank you, both.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes. For the maintenance agreement, is that a recorded instrument that passes with the land, or is that a contract with Jim and Marta or whoever the purchasing entity they use?
It's set up as a recorded instrument.
Okay, so it'll pass with the land to the next buyer, should there be another buyer at some point?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. McDermott? Mr. Morgan?
Just one quick question. What happens if they build on that piece of city-owned lot and it's not completed by the 4 years, then does it just go back to the city and they have to remove what they did, or what will happen at that point?
So, essentially, if they haven't built, Chris, can you, I know there's a reverter clause in there, but it's a little complicated.
So, my recollection, looking at the agreement, is it reverts to the city if it's not complete. To answer, I think, an earlier question about extension, there is an extension provision separate and apart from the state disaster tolling they're talking about. I believe there is an extension that's in the city's sole discretion. So there is the ability to extend the outside date of completion in the city's discretion. Is my recollection.
Can I ask a follow-up question about that?
Of course.
I just want to know how long this can be extended.
I think what Chris is saying is that the city council could always, in their discretion, grant more time if they so chose.
And
It would require, I think it would require an amendment to the agreement, but it's extended at the council's discretion, so.
So just playing devil's advocate, it could go on indefinitely?
I guess, I suppose anything is always possible.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anything? Ms. McDermott?
Could this project be built without the parking lot being sold?
Not as currently designed.
Yeah. Mr. Mitchell?
It's my understanding that there's subterranean parking garages as a part of this project. If they chose to do a parking somewhere else, or off-site parking, or a garage, they bought the old Lord and Taylor building and put a 20-story garage there, whatever, would that then not require them to sell this or buy this little piece of property?
To do something like that, they would need to come back and get a new approval.
Okay. No, I figured if you're building a parking garage, you need approval.
Anyone else? Okay. Chair has no questions. With that, I'll open the public hearing and ask the petitioner to make her presentation. Please state your name and address again, and you have 20 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, Ellie Zacharias, 14 Southeast 4th Street. Susan and Aaron, thank you very much for your very thorough presentations. Okay, so I'm just going to start to orient all of you to the location. This is the city-owned lot on the corner of Meisner Boulevard. This is the post office, and this is what I commonly call the Pink Plaza, which is Meisner Plaza, which is one story. We have Tower 155 directly to our south, and we have Meisner Park directly to our north. Okay. It's not working very well. Maybe there's a delay. Okay. So again, just trying to give you some orientation. Hey, Mike, something's wrong with my clicker. Sorry, guys. I'm sure it's user error. I'm confident of it. I apologize. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's talk about the property generally speaking, but before I do that, I always start with my preface that the heart, Boca Raton has my heart. It is truly the heart of our city, and every project that lands on my desk, first and foremost, I demand and require that it is a beautiful building. Second, I also demand and require, I'm very demanding, as my husband tells me, I demand and require that all projects in our downtown put the pedestrian first. We've got to start ensuring that the pedestrian is at the forefront of our downtown and ensure that they have wide sidewalks and shade trees and they have a reason to walk there. Number three, when practical, when possible, I demand pocket parks, because what do all great cities have in common? And that is pocket parks and shade trees. So those are my three demands, and I submit to you, hopefully by the end of my presentation, you will agree that we have checked and exceeded all three of those boxes. So let's talk about the development more specifically. So Meisner Plaza, the Pink Plaza, is 1 acre, and the post office is 0.65. I will consider this entire application at 1.65 acres and not include the public park. And the reason I don't include the public park is because we are not utilizing the public park for anything above ground. It is not utilized for open space or any density or intensity or anything of the like, and we are not going vertical on the public park. We are putting, as Susan noted, underground parking under the park. That is an accurate statement. Okay, so we are proposing 2 stories completely, 2 whole entire stories of retail and restaurant. I know there was an amendment to the code many years ago that required some vibrancy on the ground floor. I don't think you have ever received an application before you. I certainly have not brought you an application that has not only the entire first floor, but the entire second floor as well, as open to the public and vibrant. So on the first floor, we have 17,040 square feet of retail and restaurant space. On the second floor, we have 12,400 square feet of retail and restaurant space. And on the 12th floor, on the east tower, we have 5,400 square feet rooftop restaurant. So above that, and by the way, each one of the first and second floors is 20 feet in height. So the first 2 floors are actually a total of 40 feet in height. From there, we go up the west tower with 117 hotel rooms. And on the east tower, we're proposing 125 hotel rooms. Again, and I'll say it a few times through this presentation, we exceed open space, and we did not use the park for open space calculations. So let's just talk briefly about how we put the pedestrian at the forefront. The front of our development is north, facing Meisner Park. On that front facade, we have a 5-foot protected bike lane. I'm not sure that there are any protected bike lanes in the city. If there are, we'll be the second. I think we may be the first, which I'm very happy to report. We have a minimum of 15 feet of sidewalk and up to 19 feet of sidewalk on our northern property line, and that's on our property. I believe the city may have some outside of our property line as well. All vehicular traffic is moved to the alley in the rear, which we are increasing from 10 feet to 20 feet, and we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. We have 1 vehicular area on our north facade, and that is because I love the circuit. For those of you that don't use it, please do. Please support the circuit, and we would like an area to just have a quick drop-off for the circuit, Uber, things of that nature. And that is up here, right here, is that vehicular traffic. Here's just a clean version of our site plan. This is obviously the Pocket Park. I keep calling it the Pocket Park. It is the city's surface parking lot that sits just to the east of the post office currently. Again, no vertical development is being proposed above that. This is our second floor landscape plan. As you can see on the southern property line, there is, well, you can't really see it from here, and I'll show you in just a moment, but there is a 6-foot wide colonnade, and on top of the colonnade, there are all these planters. Beyond the colonnade, beyond that 6-foot colonnade, there is a 20-foot wide pedestrian path, which brings me to my next point, actually. How does one get from the first floor to the second floor, if so desired? There's actually 3 modes. So there is that 20-foot wide pedestrian path that goes from the first floor to the second floor. There are also elevators, both in the east tower as well as in the west tower. And then my favorite part of the project, which are the magnificent steps, which we'll see in more detail later. So this is that 6-foot wide colonnade that I referenced. It is separate and apart from our building. It's actually not really connected to our building, and it has planters on top. And this is our 20-foot wide pedestrian path going from the first floor to the second floor, just to put it in context. This is our mobility plan, which we were able to achieve with having all of those setbacks and as well as putting the parking underground. So we are proposing 2 levels of underground parking. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about setbacks and the like. So we are, as I mentioned previously, the alley to our rear, to our south, is 10 feet wide. 5 feet sits on our property and the properties to the north, and 5 feet sit on all the properties to the south. We are looking to expand that alley from 10 feet to 20 feet. All 10 feet will be on our property, so that would be 15 feet on our property. We are also proposing to set back the colonnade, which again is separate and apart from our building, the colonnade 18 feet from our property line. I do want to remind the board that in Boca Raton in the downtown, there is no setback here. So I could in theory build to my property line and not expand the alley. To the north, again, we have that 15 and 19 foot of sidewalk, but we also have 42.5 feet of setback to our building. Code requires with the IDG 26 feet, so we far surpass that setback as well. On the west side, we have a 12-foot sidewalk proposed, and we're meeting the 26-foot setback. On the east side, I had to orient myself. On the east side, we're proposing a 12-foot, 2-inch sidewalk, and we are set back over 90 feet. Again, the proposed alley I show in a little bit more in detail here that we're 34 feet to the northern edge of that colonnade, and then another 20 feet for the pedestrian path. So our building is actually set back 54 feet away from Tower 155's building. This is our open space. As Susan noted and I previously noted, we meet or exceed open space. The only reason I brought this up again is to highlight the fact that we are not using the city-owned lot for our open space calculations. Okay, so let's talk about the public park. So this is what it looks like today. The parking lot is non-conforming as it relates to both parking stall size as well as driveway width. So the entirety of the area is non-conforming. What we are proposing is to remove the nonconformities and go ahead and make it a public space for all to enjoy, while simultaneously replacing those spaces underground. Those spaces would be replaced underground and would be public, for public use. So on each subfloor, we have 26 parking spaces that sit under the park. So that's a total of 15. And again, 17 of those would be replaced by with city-owned parking. Again, as Aaron correctly noted, the survey shows, and as you can see, the property line sits directly in the middle of Meisner Boulevard. So while the survey shows 0.28, it's really closer to a 0.2 acre parcel of land. So I guess the question, let me back up actually. Our architect tried to design something that would fit on this site. We were unable to find any development that could go vertical on this site due to code requirements for both setbacks and active uses that we previously discussed that are required on the ground floor. Again, the parcel is just too small. The only thing we could fit on there realistically is 10 conforming spaces. So I guess the question we all need to be asking ourselves is, do we want 19 non-conforming spaces with a non-conforming driveway, 10 conforming parking spaces with a conforming driveway, or a true public park that all can use? And again, I said it and I say it again, that is what makes great cities great, is these pocket parks throughout their downtown. All right, we have one ask this evening and only one ask, and that is regarding a reduction in parking. As Susan correctly noted, the parking code for downtown was designed and drafted 40 years ago. I would argue, and I'm sure Charlie Seaman, if he were here, would argue even 40 years ago, the code was very suburban. It has only gotten worse compared to how the cities are developing and how people are moving away from the single vehicular movement. So on your left side, you have a use column. The use provides the uses we are proposing and a breakdown of square footages for each one of those uses. The second column to the right is the city's code, how much parking per square footage is required. And then the third column shows you exactly how many parking spaces code would require today based on this development. The requirement would be 569 spaces. I think that's what it says. 569 spaces. To put that into context, I just want the board to be aware that downtown Delray is pretty much serviced almost exclusively by 2 parking garages. Those two, and the entire downtown, and those 2 parking garages total approximately 714 spaces. So the city's code for one building would require 569 spaces. The next column entitled Proposed Vehicular Parking is what we are proposing as an alternative to the city's code. The biggest change is for restaurants. The current code would require 206 spaces, and we're proposing 103. I'm confident you're questioning where we got that formula. That formula actually also comes from a suburban older code in unincorporated Palm Beach County. And the reason we decided to utilize another suburban code is because, well, A, it's less than Boca's archaic code, and B, we already have it in our city. So all the property that has been annexed over the years from the county, that into the city, that is the parking rate they use. So by way of example, Restaurant Row, that is their parking requirement. So if you compare Restaurant Row with why would Restaurant Row require less parking than our downtown, I think that's something we really need to consider. There is a draft. It is not adopted yet. It is still a moving target, but there is a draft that is being circulated for downtown parking requirement revisions. We have analyzed those, and our parking required based on the new, again, not adopted, still in draft form, still will have, I'm sure, many changes, would be 406 spaces. So that is more in line with what we are proposing. And not that I want to be West Palm, I want to be so much better than West Palm. But West Palm is a downtown environment, and we analyzed their downtown parking code with our development, and that would trigger 139 spaces. Again, not trying to be downtown, don't want to, West Palm, don't want to be West Palm, and that's why we're proposing 372 and not 139. But I did think it was important to put into context what other downtown environments are requiring for parking. Here are some renderings. The 4th floor, as you can see, the eastern building is very stepped back from Meisner Boulevard, and it step staggers as it goes up. There is a pool on the 4th floor, and of course, I mentioned previously, there is a rooftop restaurant on the east tower. This is from the park looking west. This is the one area that I mentioned that had vehicular movement for the circuit and Uber and the like for drop-off on the north end. Again, here you could see the real heights of those, the first 2 floors being 20 feet in height. They're going to be pretty magnificent. And then we get to my favorite part of the project. So the entire development was designed around these steps, which were strategically located to be perfectly aligned with the green plaza in Meisner Park. So the steps on the right are traditional steps, where the steps on the left, although can still be used as stairs, they're deeper and they're wider. So they're really meant to welcome the pedestrian, have somebody sit, relax. I can envision a quartet being played here, things of that nature. And you see how we step stagger up as we go west, where Meisner Tower 155 is very tall, almost 160 feet on Meisner Boulevard, and then step staggers down. You can see with this picture how the steps align with the plaza. More on the second floor. This is from the west, the entrance to Sanborn Square. And that's all I have today. My entire team's here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Ms. Sakarides? Mr. Mitchell?
I'll wait till after.
Okay, Ms. McDermott? Okay, Mr. Morgan? Ms. Ritchie?
Yes, thank you. You mentioned an amendment to the DDRI. I think earlier on you were referencing Ordinance 5581.
I believe that's the correct one.
And I just wanted to ask on the record that that was considered in the renderings in the development of this project?
That was the entire intent of our project, is ensuring that there is vibrancy and lights on. And in this particular project, not just on the ground floor, but on the second floor as well.
And the ground floor, I mean, the pictures show like engagement for the tenant shops. You can see what's going on inside. That's the way that it will be built if it's built.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dornblaser?
Just to make sure I read the plans and heard everything properly, there are 19 spaces in the city's parking lot, non-conforming, and to make them conform, it would only be, you could only make it work with 10. But you're replacing in the underground garage with 19 spaces, not just 10, correct?
Yeah, we're actually replacing with 17. The reason we're replacing with 17 and not 19, Mr. Dornblaser, is we're actually replacing a total of 26, I believe, but some of them are parallel spaces that we're building and replacing for the city on the boundaries of the perimeter of our property.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, just to get, your south setback is how far?
To the actual building or to the colonnade?
To the colonnade?
To the colonnade from our property line is 18 feet.
Okay, and Tower 155 is how close to the, so I know that was considered.
Their northern setback is 1.48 feet.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Not? Okay.
Thank you so much.
This is a public hearing. I will give a priority to Mr. DeWitt, who represents Tower 155, I believe. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 20 minutes.
Great. Good evening, Board. Richard DeWitt, 200 South Andrews Avenue, on behalf of Tower 155 Condo Association. I, along with our planner, Jeff Costello, will go ahead and present to you and discuss the discrepancies in both the applications. I'm going to focus on the sale of the property, city-owned property, and he's going to focus on the IDA. So why are we here? Tower 155 is the largest adjacent property owner opposing the sale as well as the IDA. Now, in order to receive a recommendation from this board, the applicant has the burden to prove that they meet each and every identified criteria in Section 28-54, Section 13-62, as well as Florida statutes for both of their applications. So if after hearing all of the evidence and testimony presented at this hearing, you do not believe the applicant has met this burden, you should recommend denial of the applications, or table the matter pursuant to Sections 13.62(1), which allows the board the ability to work with staff and to fully evaluate and study both aspects and all aspects of the IDA and the sale of the city-owned property. Now, Tower 155 filed a notice of affected party. The city attorney's office has opined on it, but affected persons and affected parties are often meet the following factors. One, abutting or close proximity, which we do. They're entitled to receive notice under the zoning ordinance, which we did. And such proximity generally establishes that the property owners have an interest greater than the general interest in the community shared with all the other common citizens in the city. So tonight we are asking that the board recognize Tower 155 as an affected party for both of the applications. Now let me jump into the sale of the city-owned property and hopefully your recommendation of denial. The first discrepancy and issue is, and follow along, I gave it a little blue pamphlet if you want to follow along, or just listen to me. Either one works. So the notice for this application is defective and should be rescheduled, honestly. until it's properly noticed. The city even concedes that the current notice for tonight's hearing is inaccurate. That's not in question. Specifically, the notice indicates that the sale of city-owned property is case number SC-24-08. That has nothing to do with the sale of city property. It only relates to the Boca Technology DRI amendment. So any resident out there that was attempting to research that case number under projects under review on the city website or anywhere else, they wouldn't find that information. They would find information on Boca Technology DRI amendment, which is simply nothing related to the sale of city property. So again, the notice was clearly defective. We're asking that the prudent thing to do here would be to reschedule this hearing and properly renotice it. Otherwise, we all may end up here again if that notice is deemed defective. Referral to the P&Z board prior to sale. So this property under section 13-621 sets forth the requirements for referral to this board. Now it's different than your normal requirements. The most important part of that section 13-621 states that the property shall not be sold until the matter of such sale has been referred to this board for study and recommendation. I don't believe just listening to a presentation here tonight, getting the backup that's not entirely complete, which you'll hear after my presentation, meets the criteria for study. I think you need more time to make a fully informed decision. Again, the key word here is study. The staff report does not fully and accurately provide the board with essential information to study and evaluate whether the city-owned property or the taxpayer's property should be in fact sold to a developer. First, the staff report is deficient in explaining the sale process. If you just read through this, it looks like if you recommend approval, the Batsmassians are the number one. They're going through with it. Purchase and sale agreements in the backup, everything's in the backup, just goes to them. It's not the case. Specifically, the property is within the CRA. When it's within the CRA, there's certain requirements. Not only is it within the CRA, this property was previously the subject of an eminent domain action. The city actually acquired this property via eminent domain, which carries certain safeguards with it because it has to be taken for a public purpose and necessity. So now both of those criteria in the CRA and previously eminent domain trigger different statutes. Again, both of those factors are unique to this property. It requires an evaluation and its strict adherence to the requirements in Chapter 13, Article 3 of the city's code, Florida Statute 163.380, as well as Florida Statute 73.013. Here, the staff report again appears to only indicate that the sale will be solely to the Batsmassians, and that's 100% incorrect. Again, the prudent approach here would be to reschedule the hearing in order to allow the board and work with staff under 13.621 and find out exactly what the process here is in order to do the proper analysis. Additional deficiencies. Property deemed surplus. Hasn't happened. The staff report incorrectly deems the property has been determined as surplus by the city. It's 100% false. Only the city commission can deem the property as surplus. And to date, no determination has made, there's no resolution, nothing. They haven't even looked at it as surplus. Proposed purchaser. The staff report incorrectly lists the proposed purchaser as James H. and Marta Batmassian. Again, I know staff try to correct that and say that James Batmassian is a member of Meisner Lot Investments, LLC, but Marta's not. So you have two different property owners. You have James and Marta that own the current property where they're looking at the IDA, and then you're going to have an LLC, Meisner Lot Investments, with solely James in it as the other portion. And in the backup, one of the conditions is unity of title. So you're not going to be able to have unity of title with the LLC and then James and Marta. It's just, you can't do it. So again, the unity of title is required to unify the city-owned property and the Batmassian parcels. So it just can't happen in the current configuration. So again, the staff report's incorrect on that. The appraisals. This is going to shock you a little bit. 2 different appraisals. Staff report fails to disclose that there's 2 separate appraisals. Mind you, when she presented, she did gloss over it, but there were 2 separate appraisals done by Walter Duke. The first one was back in October 28th, 2024, and determined the as-is market value was $3.270 million. Now, once the developer saw that, they balked at that price. They demanded a new appraisal be done, stating, "We, the applicant, paid for this appraisal, and I do not believe the appropriate explanation as to what we are doing was delivered to the appraiser." Yet finished with, "Nonetheless, just so I'm clear, the city is merely requesting a $10 payment, correct?" That's when all those credits come into play, and they actually, the developer wants to pay 0, where the city came back and said, no, you're going to at least pay $883,000. So the developer always expected 100% credit and reduction here. Now, following the developer's demands, the city required Walter Duke to, in fact, revise the appraisal, which resulted in a significant reduction to $2.37 million. However, despite that reduction, the developer was still not satisfied, stating that the property is not buildable based on city code and continued to argue with staff. So, developer is seeking 100% credit for the purchase of the property. I know staff went over a little bit, but I just want to put those numbers again before you. The applicant requested credits of $3.476 million. Staff recommends $1.486 million. So the total in the applicant's and developer's presentation, or what they want to pay 0, staff wants them to pay $883,000. So there's a lot to throw at you, there's a lot to consider, and there's a lot for this board to study. It's not as cut and dry as staff presented or the developer saying. So what we're asking is either outright recommend denial or table the matter to allow the board to properly comply with the city code mandate in section 13.621 in order to allow the board the ability to work with staff and to fully evaluate and study all aspects of the proposed sale of the city-owned property. Thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff.
Good evening, Board, Chair, Board members. Jeff Costello, JC Planning Solutions, Delray Beach, Florida. Here on behalf of Tower 155. Just briefly, with regard to the presentation, the proposal includes basically, it doesn't happen unless there's a transfer of the office equivalent of almost 180,000 square feet from the 3 separate sub-areas identified on the screen, D, E, and G. This is a very small site, as the applicant stated. It's only 1.5 acres. And so as we review it, it's like, okay, we're not against development. It's a matter of the development being in proportion to what that property really should hold. It's busting at the seams. It's what planners hate to hear is 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag, but that's what I've heard many times in my career. But anyway, as we try to work with applicants to get them to where they need to be. Just an example, look, you mentioned the pedestrian-friendly about activating the ground level. This can happen without the need for the additional square footage on the second floor. I know that the intent is to make an iconic type of development, but But with that, there's always the ability to make changes, whether it's a matter of reduction in hotel rooms or square footage of restaurant, which is 17,000, which is a very high traffic generator, and parking demand use. There is the ability. If they look at it as far as that reduction, you reduce the number of trips, the parking, the height, etc. It's a domino effect, which it may be more compatible with the adjacent development. As looking, and there's a lot that's been said about the alley. Yes, it's a very narrow alley. There's a portion adjacent to the client's property, but when you're coming in, we've all known this is a very narrow site. And when you're adding, and the screen, while it says 1,400, that's the net new average daily trips, which really there's 2,400 average daily trips, that the primary access, the only access to the garage is through the alley, which again, that's a 20-foot wide alley. And it's really going to function as a city street. And I understand urban environment. I've worked in urban planning my entire life. But the fact is I've never witnessed a development that I've dealt with that number of trips solely accessible off the alley. Not only that, then you have your loading and unloading, as well as the trash pickup on the alley. There we go. Actually, to shift it up, this is the loading area, one of them, which is located within the alley. It's temporary, but it's still within the alley, and then another loading area here. Now, I just want to briefly, in review of the LDRs, it talks about off-street loading, where it is so that vehicles for these services may use this space. It's regarding the loading area on site without encroaching on or interfering with public use of streets or alleys. So in this particular case here, we feel with the site design, it's going to negatively impact that and have a negative impact on my client's property as well as the surrounding area and add conflicts with regard to traffic conflicts within the alley. It should be wider, more in tune with a city street, and it's easy, and the thing is it's maxed out, understanding what the setbacks allow, site design to accommodate loading on site would be appropriate. There's also, with regard to trash pickup, it really isn't designated on a site plan. It does identify two trash rooms in each tower, which appear to be inadequate for a development of over 300,000 square feet, 242-room hotel, 17,000 restaurant, and then, of course, the retail. So, as stated on the screen, there should be some consideration to that. Again, it may be a matter of just kind of taking some air out of the balloon, just looking at it a little bit differently. Obviously, there's too much in the fact that it requires 52 spaces to be located beneath the city property. Yes, there's a public benefit to the plaza, maybe an additional public benefit with regard to public parking to replace not just the 27, but add more in addition to that in the 400 space garage. This is just an example of what occurs currently within the alley. And just some dimensions as far as, where that would go. As far as the width of that, they're adding another lane for sure, as well as the colonnade. It is an improvement, but the impact of the development is requiring more. With regard to open space, we question the fact that open space has been, the requirement has been met. This is the definition. The area which is open from the land to the sky. So it appears that the upper levels are basically counted as open space. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's how it's being calculated. So our contention is it doesn't meet the current open space requirements. This is just an excerpt from the policy, the CRA's policy regarding open space. And these are really the areas, it's the ground floor area, which would be part of that calculation. So these are just some of the aspects that we're talking about. obviously, and as with digging in deeper into parking, there was the example about Delray Beach. I'm very familiar with that. Look, there may be a couple parking garages, another one planned, and they're always dealing with employee parking, where do they park, and you got a number over 1,000 surface lots, surface spaces in that downtown core, which is much smaller. And the new developments are providing their parking on site. So it's not apples to apples. As we know, redevelopment is always challenging, but we feel, again, it's not opposing. It's a matter of doing it it's well done. It could be better, and not negatively impact the adjacent property owners. These are some of the criteria outlined in the Code of Ordinances for the Planning and Zoning Board to consider. Obviously, we feel that not all the code requirements have been met, and that should be a pause and look at it a little bit closer. And so that basically does, as you see up there, and some of those criteria include compatibility of proposed use with adjacent uses. So that's my brief conclusion with a minute left, and I'd appreciate you reconsidering either tabling the item or denial of the request. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we have cards that Jamie's going to read and call people up in the order of the cards who request to speak. You'll each state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone in here that's going to speak that didn't get sworn in? Because I saw some people come in later. If that's the case, would you swear this gentleman in?
Mr. Chair, could we ask questions of the...
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thanks. Do you swear and affirm any testimony you give at this public hearing will be truthful and accurate?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hearing
Jamie,
from-
would you start calling people?
Not questions, okay.
Yeah.
Paul Robinson?
Hi, Board. Thank you for giving us some time to speak. I'm going to hit this...
Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Paul Robinson. I live at 155 East Boca Raton Road, Unit 1119. I wanted to make some observations on a more human level. The attorneys have done a pretty good job of covering the statutory requirements. The first is, I found the displays used by the petitioner to be incredibly misleading. Almost all of them blank out Tower 155 in their renderings, which make it look like it's a lot more open space than it is. It is very different when you see the one rendering where 155 is directly behind it. The second thing is, parking in Meisner right now is incredibly difficult during season, and this project, while it claims to add additional parking, given the additional traffic it's projecting, it's a net negative in parking. It's not a positive. The third is, moving the alley to 20 feet is hardly impressive if it's going to now become a through street. It's not just a through street for regular vehicles, it'll be a through street for commercial vehicles, construction vehicles, sanitation vehicles. That is a very small area by which to move that in addition to other traffic. I don't know of any other building that's 140 feet high that is 20 feet away from another 140-foot building in Boca. If we want to be the next New York downtown, that's fine, but that's not the atmosphere that people move to Boca for. There's an open space here. Jamming that right next to it just doesn't make sense from a planning standpoint if you're looking to preserve what Boca stands for. They talk a lot about adding public space. You know what's better than adding public space? Not taking away tons of public space and open air that exists there today. There is a ton of light. There's 6 restaurants that are going to be displaced, and in addition to other businesses. And now they're adding additional restaurants. I don't know, I'm sure you guys know this. There's over 100 restaurants in downtown Boca in a walking distance from this area. It is not in need of new restaurants. If anything, on the parking data, if the parking data is 40 years old, I'm going to argue that it goes the other way, that it is insufficient in light of current needs. The use of automobiles has increased dramatically since 40 years ago. And I can't imagine that the parking data would then decrease over that time, but I'm not the expert. The comparison to Delray and the parking garages is incredibly misleading. Those parking garages are not attached to a hotel. The hotel...
Sir, please wrap it up.
I'm sorry? Oh, sure, sorry. A couple of the quick things. The steps that they're as public space are difficult for elderly and for people with disabilities. That does not make them very usable public spaces for a great deal of the people who use downtown Boca. And since I'm running out of time, I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
John Perlman?
John Perlman, 498 Northeast 8th Street. Approving this project will be setting up a second Champlain Towers collapse right here in Boca Raton, the collapse of Tower 155. In the proposed design, you have an underground parking garage, not typical in Florida, which is going to force the builder to excavate much deeper with a resulting large underground cavity. You're also talking about this development building being built much higher and much bigger and much higher than allowed by the current code. In the Miami Herald article of January 21st, 2022 that covered the Champlain Towers South collapse, it stated, "Close-by construction can affect neighboring structures in material ways, from damage caused by the driving of sheet piles for foundational support to a phenomenon called differential settlement, where disturbance of the water table and underground soil can unevenly shift the foundation next door," according to engineers interviewed by the Miami Herald. The northern setback of Tower 155 is 1 foot from the property line, as Ms. Zacharias pointed out. The alleyway created between Tower 155 was shortened in 2014 when that building was built, and the alleyway was significantly shortened. You are possibly setting up a second Champlain Towers South collapse right here in Boca Raton if this is approved. Similarly, in the Champlain Towers collapse, a public roadway was given to the developer to build right up to the Champlain Towers South. In the lawsuit relating to Tower 155, there was a lawsuit relating to Tower 155, and it alleged that the building was not constructed in compliance with state building code or good design, engineering, and construction practices. Similarly, the Miami Herald article referenced before documented the construction and design issues of Champlain Towers South, very similar to Tower 155. Terra is the chosen developer of Boca Raton's government redevelopment campus. Interestingly, they were also the developer of 87 Park, which was being built next to Champlain Towers South when the building collapsed, and was held responsible for a significant amount of the $1.2 billion settlement with the victims. It was alleged in litigation that the construction and excavation work at 87 Park, that the 87 Park project caused considerable damage and destabilization of the Champlain Towers structure, and was therefore partially responsible for the building's collapse. I would like to mention that by the way, that their financial submission deck to the city before being chosen for the project never mentioned the lawsuit. Hopefully you will stop this project today, because we do not need another Champlain Towers collapse right here in Boca Raton. With these two massive buildings being constructed in close proximity, with the abandonment of a sizable portion of that alleyway, and the building flaws inherent, as documented in the lawsuit in Tower 155,
Sir,
this will be a very dangerous decision if this goes forward.
Okay. All right. I just want to say something. Let everybody else speak, and there's no clapping and no yelling. Okay? We need to act like adults here. Thank you.
Next is Blair Flicker.
Good evening. My name is Blair Flicker. I reside in Tower 155. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm here to express my concern about the impact the hotel project would create for residents, businesses, and visitors in our neighborhood, and I'd like to focus on two matters, principally traffic and the sale of the city-owned parking lot. Aledo Square is already under construction in the neighborhood. It will consist of a multi-story office building and retail space. That project will itself increase traffic substantially. And yet, the study submitted by the developer entirely omits any consideration of traffic volumes and patterns from Aledo. Adding a 12-story hotel nearby will compound the vehicle burden in a way our streets and sidewalks were never designed to handle. I'd be interested in an explanation as to how this traffic burden would put the pedestrian first. The proposed narrow roadway mentioned by the speaker prior to me, only about 20 feet wide, between 155 and the hotel, would need to accommodate laundry services, trash collection, food and supply deliveries, ride-share drop-offs, and hotel guests. That amount of commercial traffic squeezed into a constrained corridor is unsafe and unworkable, would place pedestrians at risk, and would make our neighborhood less walkable, less livable, and less safe. If you have not already done so, I urge you to view this area for yourselves. Descriptions don't do justice for the concern that I'm addressing. Traffic means not only congestion, but also noise and air pollution. The constant flow of service trucks, delivery vehicles, and cars would erode the quiet enjoyment of homes and undermine the character of the community. Second, if it decides to sell the adjacent parking lot, the city should do so in an open sale for fair market value. This is not simply a land use issue. It is a question of responsible stewardship of public assets. Selling public property under a conditional agreement with a private developer, absent open market competition, deprives residents of fair value and raises questions about process. I respectfully ask the board to balance the city's interest in commercial growth with its duty to protect the quality of life of current residents and uphold the integrity of the zoning code. Granting the many variances being requested in this proposal would set a dangerous precedent that other developers will doubtless cite in the future. If the city understandably...
Sir, please wrap it up.
I urge you to reject this proposal as submitted, or at the very least table it for further study so that its impacts on traffic, public safety, parking, air noise and quality, structural safety, and public trust can be fully, transparently, and honestly addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me.
Next is Sandy Silver.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your
Sir,
service.
please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Sandy Silver, Tower 155, East Boca Raton Road. I want to thank you all for your service, as I know your positions are voluntary. Many of you live west of I-95 and therefore do not experience the vehicular and foot traffic that we as downtown residents experience every single day. I am writing as a resident of Tower 155 in downtown Boca Raton to share my views regarding the current and proposed development projects in our downtown area. I chose to live downtown because of the convenience and lifestyle that it offers. Easy access to everyday goods and services provided by local businesses such as barbershops, cleaners, affordable restaurants, and service providers. This is the essence of urban living and one of the qualities that make downtown Boca Raton very attractive. While I appreciate the architectural quality of the project of the Second Street proposal, I am concerned that many recent developments focus almost exclusively on hotels, high-end retail, and luxury dining. These types of establishments often displace small businesses by driving up rents, reducing the diversity of services available to residents. Boca Raton already has ample space for upscale retail and dining at Meisner Park and Royal Palm Plaza, both of which currently have vacancies, by the way, including the empty Lord & Taylor building, which now is, I think, temporarily for restoration hardware. Additionally, traffic and access remain serious concerns. The proposed narrow alleys and high-capacity garages will place significant strain on already congested streets. For example, our neighborhood already struggles with truck traffic on East Boca Raton Road, and the addition of a 500-car garage with limited ingress and egress will only worsen the situation. I strongly support redevelopment and thoughtful urban improvement. However, I urge the committee to consider the balance of uses of downtown. Maintaining space for small businesses and ensuring traffic flow that is manageable and essential if we want downtown Boca to remain livable and distinct from larger urban centers like Fort Lauderdale or Miami. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Jeanette Oren.
Thank you. My name is Jeanette Oren. I live at Tower 155. I grew up here in Palm Beach County. I love what I see as a lot of the development here, but I have to say I think this big and beautiful hotel is all wrong for this parcel of land. It is too big, it is too close to Tower 155, and I hope as a Planning and Zoning Committee board you recognize that you set a precedent for all of downtown Boca. I moved back here with my husband only a year ago after years in the Northeast. We moved for the light, we moved for the air, we moved for the community. We have a wonderful community. We moved so we could walk to restaurants and to stores as we age in place. I want to live and die the rest of my life here. But you won't be able to walk anywhere except luxury restaurants and luxury retail space, and our light will be blocked, our air will be blocked, and pollution will increase. This alley, which you saw from our attorney, is going to be 20 feet wide. 20 feet is less than the space between me and this gentleman. This wall of 12 stories will be 20 feet away from another wall of 12 stories. It will create a canyon effect, and there will be increased noise and pollution. Already, when the garbage truck comes down this alley, it has to stop. Imagine the garbage, the laundry, the hotel guests, Tower 155 service vehicles, all the retail stores, the food services for the hotel, all trying to make their way back and forth in one road that is not even as wide as a city street, like we have on the other side of the building. If you approve this, this is a precedent that will drive away people from the Northeast from coming down. The final thing I want to say is that the sale of the property feels like a very shady backroom deal to me, a taxpayer. If the property was for sale, why didn't we ever see a for sale sign there? I didn't know it was for sale. Maybe I want to buy it. Maybe a group of us want to buy it and put up a park. Why aren't we given the access to city property that's for sale? This shouldn't be done only for the wealthy developers in town. I hope you will realize the precedents you're setting, and please vote no on everything to do with this size hotel and this sale of the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Next is Brian Critchman.
My name is Dr. Brian Critchman. I live at 155 East Boca Raton Road. I'm here today to oppose the Mizna Plaza Hotel project and expose the apparent gross negligence or corruption associated with this committee and the city. In the pending application, Mr. Batsmanian is attempting to deceive the citizens of Boca Raton in an attempt to ostensibly comply with the zoning requirements. The three most obvious are the need for office equivalents to be transferred from one sub-area to another, the need for Mr. Batsmanian to purchase the post office parking lot, which is owned by the citizens of Boca Raton, and Batsmanian's attempt to use square footage of staircases and garage access to meet open space requirements. The project needs to transfer 180,000 square feet of office equivalents, which is a total of 67% of the total project. The Alelo project transferred 90,000 2 years ago. This means sub-area B is being overbuilt and turning the area into a high-density city, which was not the original plan. Mr. Batsmanian, as required, signed the transfer of authorized development between sub-areas checklist. It states, quote, "The following checklist is designed to assist applicants in preparing required materials," unquote. It also states, quote, "Items omitted will delay review procedures," unquote. I asked Brandon Shaw to send me a copy of the petitioner's supporting documentation, and he did. Out of 3 required items, he only sent me 2, which means there is no documentation for item 2, which includes, number 1, assessment to justify the transfer based on the goals of the amended downtown plan. 2, need for redevelopment of the proposed property. 3, fiscal and economic impact on the sub-area. And 4, assessment of the impact on the sub-area from where they are being transferred from. This application is incomplete, and if this committee does not require Mr. Batsmasian to complete the application, one would wonder if corruption might be the answer why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Monique Rambo. Oh. Armand Batmasian.
My name is Armin Batmasian, 215 North Federal Highway, Boca Raton, Florida. It's kind of disheartening hearing all this negative feedback from one building regarding the most important development in our city. I would put my life on it that that road right now is pitch black and dark and empty, and tomorrow morning it's going to be empty. And for the rest of our lives, it's going to be empty if nobody builds any more retail in our city. And we try to do the right thing, folks, and give you guys daylight and try to build a very amenable development. And here we are getting bashed for it, and it's just shocking to me. It's the most important development this board can approve. And if you don't, it's on you, guys. I hate to say it, but our downtown depends on some retail. We need something. We need some life. We got metered parking and empty spaces and one building that's concerned in their views, and there's 100,000 other citizens that need a downtown, and we don't have one. We do not have one. We are disorganized, disoriented, and we keep approving condo projects that are displaced in small retail environments. And because of this, I have to drive by it and live with it and stare at it every day, watching safety patrols tow people from our parking lot. When the post office leaves, we're not going to have a post office box. So I just hope this board really, on its own merit, this project is the most important project that's come before our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no more cards.
No more cards. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to this item? Okay. If not, I will ask staff. Does the staff want to cross-examine anyone who spoke?
No, we don't.
Okay. Petitioner, Ms. Zachariades, are you in the room? Do you want to cross-examine anyone that spoke? Okay. All right, fine.
No, thank you. Can we put my PowerPoint back on, maybe like slide 47-ish? Okay, while I wait for that, I did jot down some notes. Ms. Ritchie, so you asked a very pointed question. Can this project be built without the city-owned parking lot? And Mr. Shad correctly answered, not as submitted. We have done much evaluation. Thank you so much. We have done much evaluation specifically on that topic. And to answer your question very frankly, the answer is yes. The building would stay exactly as designed. There would be no changes to anything above ground other than the fact that we would not improve the city-owned lot. The only differential is we would remove 6,708 square feet of restaurant and convert it to a hotel-only spa. That is literally the difference. The building itself would stay exactly the same. If Tower 155 is interested in purchasing the property and building a park, by all means, go forth and do so. We would have no objection. You would save us a lot of money, actually, by doing that. So yes, the building can be built exactly as designed today. I want to make that abundantly clear. Exactly as designed today, except one of the suites on the second floor would say spa instead of restaurant. That would literally be the only difference. With regard to the city-owned lot and the multiple appraisals, with all due respect, if you're buying a single-family home and they're claiming the acreage is 1 acre, but in fact it's only 0.5, I think you too would ask for it to be reappraised. The original appraisal came back appraising property that literally sits in and on Meisner Boulevard, on a street. So clearly, Ellie is going to ask that it be reappraised accordingly. The notice issue was brought to my attention. Actually, thank you, Mr. DeWitt, for the courtesy of calling the city attorney. I sincerely appreciate that. I have spoken with the city attorney. That will be remedied prior to CRA. It was an oversight and a mistake by the city. We all make mistakes, but it will be remedied. I will say for the record, I personally have had a minimum of 7 meetings and phone calls with Tower 155. That was separate and apart from my at-large community meeting, which I also held. But because we are so close to Tower 155, we did want to meet with them very often and very early on in this process, and we did. Aledo traffic study. The traffic study does include Aledo. Any approved projects, whether built or not, are included in our traffic study as background traffic and are required by the city standards. Too big, set a precedent is what I heard. I want to remind everybody, Mr. Seville, you probably remember this. Previously, the IDG code required, and I can't remember, Ms. Lesser, if it's 1.5 or 2 acres originally, when originally drafted. It was actually Tower 155 that came in for a text amendment to reduce the acreage requirement from whatever it was, 1.5 or 2, down to 1.25 in order for them to build their 12 stories. I want to say that again. They got a text amendment to the IDG regulations to reduce the acreage requirement to allow them to build 12 stories. They are the tallest building in our downtown. So with that, I'm going to move on to a few more slides, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. I know it's going to be a long night. So Tower 155, after their text amendment, secured the ability to be an IDG project, which allowed them to go up to 12 stories, 140 feet in height, and with architectural features, they can go up to 160. As you can see on the screen, they maximized that. And I'm not going to read all the setbacks, but I will hone in on the north setback, which is the setback that abuts our development parcel. As I stated before in my presentation, there is no side setback requirement in the downtown. It can be 0. So they were within their right to build at 1.48 feet from their property line. However, we are now building 54 feet away from them and being accused of being too large, where they're taller than us by almost 20 feet, and too close to their property line. So this is the existing condition. You have a 10-foot alley. As you can see, their property, I'm not even sure that's 1.48 feet, but okay, let's give it to them. 1.48 feet away from the curb and gutter. You see, I don't know how many people that sit on this board have ever driven down this alley. I've driven it down multiple times, and never once have I been able to get through from one side to the other because there's always a truck blocking the entire alley for Tower 155. The buildings currently, and on the right-hand side is actually the post office. The buildings are currently today 15 feet away from each other, from wall to wall. To the contrary, this is what we are proposing. We are expanding the alley from 10 feet to 20 feet, again, an additional 10 feet on our property, which in turn means we're pushed back an additional 10 feet away from Tower 155. We are also providing a colonnade that is separate and apart from our building. That colonnade is 6 feet wide with planters inside the colonnade on top of the colonnade. From there, we have a 20-foot pedestrian ramp. That results in a 54.1 foot separation between the two buildings. That is significantly greater than required. And when I say significantly greater than required, I mean we could be 11 feet away from their building, but we are not. We are proposing to be 54 feet away from their building. Much care was taken with the design of this building from the onset with Tower 155 in mind. First and foremost, we constantly considered Tower 155. And I will show you how. And this is just an elevation showing that we're 54 feet. The actual building is 54 feet away from Tower 155. Further, and more importantly, we intentionally designed our building to maximize the views of Tower 155. And I do appreciate that there will be some views obstructed, but we are in a downtown. And it's my most hated question when residents ask me, what about my views? And it's hard for me to say because it's never easy to hear, but views are not protected, full stop. They are not. But we have done everything to ensure that as many views that we can continue to have for Tower 155, we would have. So again, Tower 155 towers at 160 feet right on Meisner Boulevard on their east property line. Then they step stagger back. So what we did was push our building further west and step stagger up. The result is this. You can now see the juxtaposition of our proposed development and Tower 155 and how many views we actually are considering and saving. This was not done in a vacuum. This was not done by accident. This was done specifically for Tower 155. Now, this is extremely important. The plan on your top left is what is permitted today as of right in accordance with 4035. If you recall, 4035 requires a 6-foot front setback, and you can build up to 100 feet. The picture on your top right is what could be built today by right in accordance with the IDG. This is a massing of what can be built. The bottom left is what we are proposing. The bottom right, in pink, shows you all of the massing, all of the leasable square footage, all of the hotel rooms that my client, by the way, his name is Mr. Batmazian, all of the leasable area, the volume that my client, Mr. Batmazian, could have proposed but chose not to in order to provide the most light and the most views for Tower 155. I think that is very important. Okay, let's do a little side-by-side comparison. Again, Tower 155 is an IDG project. They secured their text amendment, and they had every right to do what they did. My issue is you're here first. You are the largest building in our downtown. You have basically zero side setback, and when we're providing 54, we're the bad guys. So they're built out at 158 feet, 8 inches to their top of their architectural feature. Their north setback is 1.48. To the contrary, with our architectural features, we're at 141, 6 inches. Our setback from our property line is 18 feet to the loggia and 47 feet, 9 inches to the building. Again, that's from our property line to our building. I will say it again, we are 54 feet, 1 inch building to building. That is significantly more of a courtesy than Tower 155 provided to any of their neighboring property owners. Again, we could have built 11 and a half feet away from their building by right today. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Does anybody on this board have a question for Ellie at this point?
I do.
Ms. Ritchie?
Mr. DeWitt brought up an issue that the unity of title, which is paragraph 3.3 sub C of the contract, is impossible because we've got Meisner lot with Mr. Batmazian and the other property with the couple. Can you speak? I'm not a real estate attorney. I mean, can a unity of title agreement?
Nor am I. Does it specifically require a unity of title or a unity of control?
It requires a unity of title. So I'm also not a lawyer, but essentially they would need to have both properties at the time they sign the unity of title under common ownership.
I could easily solve that problem by transferring ownership from Mr. and Mrs. Batmazian personally to the same entity for Meisner Plaza and the post office.
So it can be accomplished. It's not.
It's not something we can't easily overcome. And all of that, as I noted earlier, I've spoken to the city attorney and Chris, the other city attorney as well, and all of these minor issues will be remedied prior to CRA.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, Mr. Mitchell? Yes. Okay.
Could you address the delivery issue? Obviously, the people who own in the building next door have a lot of concerns about the delivery trucks, it sounded like.
Yeah, they should, since they're the ones blocking the alley every day. But let me have Alex DeAngelis come up and speak to the delivery. You want me to go back to the site plan?
He's with you, right?
He's with me.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon.
Please state your name and
Alex
address
DeAngelis
for the record.
With HTA Architects. Alex DeAngelis? What was the original question about Tower 155 or our delivery?
Deliveries,
Just deliveries in general.
So let's start with what's built today. Tower 155's delivery is actually vetted to be on East Boca Raton Boulevard. It's not supposed to be on the alleyway. That's how it was supposed to be approved. When we laid out the building, we were originally going to expand the alleyway to be a one-way street that was going to be 15 feet wide. Working with the city, they thought it would be a better idea to make it a 20-foot wide alleyway. In case a car ever broke down or something can happen, people can circulate around it. In that effort, the decision was made that the loading zone would go here. So what happens is most, if not all people entering our site will drive eastbound down the alley, go into our drop-off area, which is this area where the valet is. And if you're exiting the project, you exit via this route and you drive westward, which means the loading zone sits in the middle of that ingress, egress area of what is the designated parking area of this spot. So in theory, there isn't a moment where people are driving down this as a road going in two-way traffic. Everyone will be driving eastbound to enter the project, and everyone would be exiting westbound to exit the project.
We also have a loading zone on there.
Oh, correct. And then there's a loading zone on First, that's located here. So if there is a long-term loading into one of the retail tenants, this is where they would actually go. So they would be parked off to the side of the street. Currently, there's parallel parking here that we relocated to the front on Northeast 2nd. So your truck would be here out of way of traffic. Really what happens here is trash pickup, which is a controlled time. We can set the time of when pickup will happen or not happen and the days.
Is trash pickup then just large bins that are rolled out to the street?
Yeah, so we have two enclosed trash rooms, one located here, one located there. So during trash pickup, they would be rolled out, go into the trash truck, and then the service people will put them back in the rooms hidden away from sight.
Okay. Mr. Mitchell?
No further comments at this time.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you. Does staff have any last comments on this?
I don't, if you guys don't.
Okay. Does anybody on this board have a question for staff?
My only other question was that Mr. DeWitt pointed out that the number for the sale of the city-owned property notice wasn't correct, so does that in any way affect the viability of any kind of vote or decision tonight?
So I can chime in on that a little bit. I did speak with Mr. Keeler. No, we can move forward this evening, and Chris can confirm that. We can move forward this evening, and the revisions will be remedied prior to CRA and renoticed prior to CRA.
As I understood, it was a Scrivener's error in the file number, but the description of the property, of the project itself is correct. So that Scrivener's error is not substantive enough to render the notice ineffective.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I correct one other thing briefly
go ahead.
to Ms. Ritchie's earlier question about extension? Because there are obviously there's several different instruments that all work together here. So the ordinance authorizing the sale does have a 4-year hard date. It says a no event later than 4 years. The agreement, for some reason, and we'll look at it with staff and with the applicant between now and council, does have a phrase that says extended in the city's sole discretion. That would seem to be inappropriate given the fact that the agreement itself would be void pursuant to the terms of the ordinance. So that's another minor thing we can look at and try to correct between now and then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, I will look for a motion and a second for discussion for item, let's see, 5C1. The
Motion for discussion.
Community Redevelopment Agency, EID. Okay. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion. Does anybody have, do you want?
I got some stuff, but I don't need to go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
Go first.
So I hear everybody's concerns about more development in downtown and everybody coming in complaining about the traffic and all of that. And I'm not trying to discount anybody's comments or thoughts, but I would say these are a lot of the same complaints that I hear from residents of against new projects. It was the same thing I heard from residents before the project that they are in. Other residents in the area were giving for the project that they're now in. So that's just something I think I've seen in my years of doing this. You know, I'm not discounting your comments, but it is the same complaints other residents made about your building going in. I'll start with that comment. I do think it is a beautiful looking building. Meisner needs something. You know, Meisner, despite what everybody may think, is got a lot of problems. It needs some redevelopment. It needs some revitalization. And part of me looks and wonders if this is something that will help with that revitalization. That's my initial comments.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ritchie? Yeah.
I also agree. I think we heard it is a beautiful project. And that one visual that Ms. Zacharias put up about the red, I believe, was what they could have built and how much they've downsized it, taking into account these concerns. So I hear you. I think they did too. And I think that it's an appropriate place for this type of hotel and the density in the downtown area. My biggest concern clearly is tying up city land for periods of time. And so if we can correct that somehow in the contract, I just don't want to see a hotel project lasting indefinitely, especially, or another one lasting indefinitely, especially with city land tied up. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mitchell, are you ready now?
I think I am.
Okay.
So I am sad to see the post office go. My family was the first person to get a spot in that post office. 50 years ago, I've taken my wife on dates in that plaza. So I will be sad to see it go, but it's an old plaza. It needs to be redeveloped. This is a beautiful property. Obviously, we need to take into consideration the traffic. I hate getting stuck behind delivery trucks as much as anyone, so I agree that that needs to be taken into consideration. I think that, as has already been said, there's a lot of concerns, and those are concerns with every single building. And it was a concern when people, even my own family, talked to me about it when 155 went in, complaining that it was too big, too tall, and too close to the road. I think this one is less big, less tall, and less close to the road. But I've heard everyone's concerns. I take them to heart. And thank you for sharing. We appreciate when people come in and share their concerns.
Mr. McDermott, any comments?
I think it looks beautiful. I was around when Meisner Park was approved, and the original concept was to have a spine that ran through downtown, and this Meisner Plaza parcel was the holdout on that. So I think it's interesting that it's coming forward 35 years later. I appreciate all the letters and emails and you coming and speaking tonight. Thank you for your input, also with your attorneys.
Mr. Morgan, anything? Okay. I personally think this is a wonderful project, and I fully intend to support it. Everyone always complains about the traffic and the crowding, and my wife personally blames me for all the traffic in town. And I'm going to hear it when I get home. But I'm supporting this project. So with that, unless there's any other comments, Jamie, please call the roll.
Ms. McDermott?
No.
You said no? Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie?
Yes.
Chair Savelle?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
And Mr. Dornblaser?
Yes.
Pass 5-1.
Okay. Lastly, we have item 5C2 regarding the purchase and sale of agreement ordinance. Look for a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Oh, one comment that I didn't get to before. There was a comment made by the attorney for 155 that the city council has to initiate a sale or initiate something for the sale. It actually, the code states may, not shall. So they don't have to. They can if they want.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Not? Jamie, please call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie?
Yes.
Chair Savelle?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Dornblaser?
Yes.
And Ms. McDermott?
No.
Pass 5-1.
Okay. Okay. With that, it is 8:25. I'm going to call a 10-minute recess. We are back. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Spanish River Park easement, sale of city-owned property. Jamie, would you read this item in the record, please?
Spanish River Park easement, 3001 North Ocean Boulevard, an ordinance of the City of Boca Raton authorizing pursuant to Chapter 13, Article 3, Sale of City Property, Code of Ordinances, the sale of an easement for telecommunications purposes over approximately 0.493 acres, city-owned land within Spanish River Park, located at 3001 North Ocean Boulevard, authorizing the execution of a purchase and sale agreement, authorizing the execution of an easement deed pursuant to such purchase and sale agreement, providing for severability, providing for repealer, providing an effective date.
Okay. Did anybody have any ex parte communications on this item? I don't think so. Okay.
No.
With that, I'll turn it over to Erin Sita.
Actually, tonight, it's our new property specialist, Anne Hathaway.
Okay.
She's not the famous actress.
Okay. If she was, she certainly wouldn't be here.
I'm here to back her up, so this is her first run, so be gentle.
Okay. We'll be gentle.
Good evening, I'm Ann Hathaway, property specialist for Development Services.
Your microphone needs to be on.
Oh. There we go. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The item before you tonight is the sale of an easement within Spanish River Park. The applicant...
You got to be closer to the mic.
Sorry. Okay, shout. There we go. The applicant, Telexis Cable USA, is requesting to purchase an easement within Spanish River Park. The total is a little less than half an acre to install underground telecommunication cables. As required by Article 3 of Chapter 13 Code of Ordinances of City Boca Raton, as it relates to the sale of city property, contained criteria must be met. Acceptance of ordinance by City Council with the review and recommendation by Planning and Zoning. It also requires a current third-party appraisal less than 6 months old, which has been provided by the Urban Group. They have valued the easement at $2,684,000. Another requirement is that a deposit of 10% of the purchase price to be provided. We're in receipt of $268,400 from the applicant. Per the applicant, the proposed undersea cable will connect Boca Raton and Puerto Barros, servicing a key data and telecommunication connection route between the U.S. and the Caribbean, and improving reliability and security. The easement will extend from the Atlantic Ocean through an existing connection point in Spanish River to telecommunication cables in the city's right-of-way, which currently services in the existing undersea fiber optic telecommunication cables that were approved in 2000. As previously mentioned, the easement is broken into two segments. Sorry, I apologize, went the wrong way. There you go. As previously mentioned, the easement is broken into two segments. Easement A, which is located on the west side of A1A, consists of 0.282 acres, and Easement B, which is located on the east side of A1A, consists of 0.211 acres, together of a total of 0.493 acres. As stated prior, an appraisal was conducted by the Urban Group on May 13, 2025. They valued the property with the following way. Easement A, the west side, at $1,538,000. Easement B, the east side, at $1,146,000, for a total of $2,684,000. On August 13, 2025, we received a deposit from the applicant in the amount of $268,400, which is 10% of the total purchase price as required prior to the introduction of the ordinance. We have established with the applicant a payment schedule as referred to in the purchase and sales agreement. In order for the applicant to receive approval from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, we are required to have the approved easement in place first. In summation, the applicant has met all necessary requirements under Chapter 13, Code 3, Sale of City-Owned Property. Staff recommends approves the sale of the city easement. The next step is to proceed with City Council for the introduction of the order on August 26, 2025, along with the first reading on September 9th, 2025.
Okay, you're done?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yes.
Mr. Dornblaser?
So are we selling an easement, or are we selling the land and then we get an easement back to use it?
No, we're selling an easement.
Okay,
We still own the land.
okay. Just want to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah. It's an easement that's
Reason?
like in two pieces.
We had an email on our desk about impacting someone's private land. Is it?
We have the applicant here, so if there's questions on that, the applicant is free to answer any questions on that.
Thank you.
I believe that was the San Remo condo, and the last correspondence I received that the Lori Vandercourt was satisfied that that was not going, or was it another property? Okay, I remember now yes, different email, sorry. Different email, different property, never mind.
Do you want the applicant to respond to that?
Yeah, we'll have the applicant up after we finish with you. Yeah. Mr. Mitchell, did you want to?
I was just curious how the easement didn't go all the way to the intercoastal. Are there already cables under there that they're going to connect to? Because it drops in the middle of the city park.
Yes, so there's an access point that's already in existence for the existing cables. They're connecting to that access point that then distributes to the city rights of way through existing cables, or through existing conduit that are there.
Okay.
Is there a tower there?
No, there's no
okay.
tower.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. McDermott? Morgan? Okay. This is a public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this item?
Yes.
Were you sworn in, sir?
I have. Are you Kenneth Curatore?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Kenneth Curator, owner San Remo Club, 2871 North Ocean Boulevard, Boca Raton. I appreciate the opportunity to ask questions related to item D, Spanish River Park easement. For the record, San Remo Club owners currently enjoy the natural green space that exists between our 295 owners in San Remo Club and Spanish River Park. Our community has 2 questions for Telix. I live at San Remo Club adjacent to Spanish River, which is why I received notice. I'm interested in confirming the specific distance between the property line of San Remo and this easement. So that's question 1. Question 2 is, I thoroughly reviewed the proposed easement details. Have renderings been produced that illustrate exactly what the project easement will look like when it's finished? That's question 2.
Okay, excuse me. Isn't that the easement is everything's going to be underground, correct? So there'll be no change.
There's no change. It's subterranean cables going underneath.
Okay, yeah.
So the green space that we enjoy between San Remo and Spanish River will not be disrupted in any way with this easement?
Correct.
But let's have the applicant, I believe that they can speak to that, because I don't believe any tree canopy is anticipated to be impacted at all. But we can have them talk about, those are the specific construction document, or those are the specifics related to the construction. Now, the actual construction will come under permit review by the city. This is not the review of that. So all of those specifics will be reviewed then. This is simply to convey the easement at this time.
So when we walk into Spanish River, which there's an entrance for the beach, there's an entrance, that will look exactly the same when the easement is complete.
Correct. That is what the applicant has stated to us, and that is our
And
expectation.
they've never given us either a picture or a rendering of what that will look like?
It should look the same.
So there'll be no towers?
There's no towers, everything is
There will
just
be-
cables underground.
There will be no, boxes and different things that make noise in the night, because we have a residential building that's right along the perimeter of Spanish River. So everyone looks at Spanish River. Currently, we see green space. The expectation is we continue to see green space, and we don't hear any humming or buzzing through the night with these telecommunication apparatus.
Mr. Chairman, if I could suggest we have the applicant talk about their project a little bit, that might answer a lot of questions.
Yes, is anyone from Texelis here? Alexis? Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, this is Guillermo Cañete. I'm from Telsius, okay? And so the answer, once we have finished, you will not notice that there is anything or something happen in that space. That, to be sure, there is a similar space, a similar infrastructure somewhere in the park. Try to find it today.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else?
I have William Swaim.
Good evening. My name is William Swaim. I live at 5455 Via Del Rey. I represent Northeast 32nd Street LLC, who owns a 4-acre parcel of land across the Intercoastal and contiguous to Spanish River Park. And my concern with this is I spent the last 7-8 years in litigation with this company and other companies when the city had issued permits to construct these type of cables going across the Intercoastal. And there's nothing in the packet that tells me where these cables are going, or there's no drawings of any way, shape, or form. I went to the DEP website to look at some of their drawings, and they have our property outlined as being a pipeline area. So I'm very concerned that we get back into the same thing and they violate their settlement agreement by the fact the city issues them a permit or permission to start this project. It sounds like they haven't applied for a permit yet. So it seems like it's a little premature that if it even can be permitted yet.
Let's see if we can clear this up for you.
Yeah.
Is it correct that this easement is not going near the Intracoastal?
The easement is on city property. It is not
on
on the
city property.
intercoastal.
No, I understand that, but it comes into city property, then it has to go throughout the city of
Yeah,
Boca
but
Raton.
we're only talking about this easement that's on the agenda this evening. We're not
Correct.
talking about anything else.
So the city's willing to grant an easement to something that's not even permitted yet. That's my concern. And that they have an easement, you'll grant them an easement. If it doesn't get permitted, what do? They'll turn around and sell it to somebody else. Because Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, all these international fiber optic companies are using this. This is not a telecommunications company. This is a bulk carrier. And actually, it's not a utility. It's a company that sells capacity to big users like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, that type of thing. So I just want to make sure, from my perspective, the city is not going down a path where I'm going to have to fight again and litigate again because the city issued something on my property and say you should have complained at the very beginning. And I just want to make sure that doesn't happen again. And that's why I'm here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
And if they don't build it, then does the easement actually terminate?
Can't ask that question.
Yeah.
Do you have a card,
One other
Jamie?
quick thing. I think it's in violation of the voter referendum as well. So you may want to check that. The voter referendum doesn't allow the use
Sir,
of,
we're not here to discuss any legalese. We're here to talk about this easement.
that's what I'm talking
Tonight.
about.
Okay.
There's a prohibition
You had
to
your
do
3
this.
minutes.
Okay.
John Perlman, 498 Northeast 8th Street. I have some questions, which I would assume, given that you're proposing to pass this tonight, you have the answers to. So I'd like to know if you do have the answers to them, and if you can provide them tonight, that would be great.
If you'll state your questions, we'll see if
Number
staff can
one,
answer them.
what is the exact amount of land? On the notice that was posted at Spanish River Park, it said plus minus .493 acres. The citizens want to know exactly how large this parcel is, the exact amount. Secondly, how is doing this project, how is it benefiting the citizens of Boca Raton? We want to know, by granting this easement, what is the benefit to us, the citizens of Boca Raton? Number three, are there other points of contact where this company can enter their grid in South Florida on? Have they looked into those and presented those to the zoning board as to where those points of contact are and where those other options are? Because why do they need to come through Boca Raton? Maybe there's another city that's willing to grant them an easement to come through. And that ties into question number two. How is it benefiting the citizens of Boca Raton to have it come through our city? How long does the construction take on this job? What is involved to perform this type of construction? Does anybody here tonight know the mechanics of what this type of construction involves? What type of machinery? What type of implementation? I'm interested to know that. I'd like to talk about that tonight. Has this type of job involving the mechanics and the implementation, has this type of job ever been done in the city of Boca Raton before? I'd like to know the answer to that question tonight before a vote is taken. And if so, where has it been done? And how was that a successful project? Did it impact any of the neighboring properties? And if so, how? These are questions that, given that you're prepared to grant this easement and vote on it tonight, we need to discuss them now. Thank you.
Do you have a response, staff, at all?
Sure.
Go
I can
ahead.
talk a little bit about some of this stuff. So we estimated the size at .493 acres. You can always get more precise, down to the millionths of a millimeter, I suppose, but that's pretty precise. What's the benefit? The city is being paid a substantial amount of money, which lessens the tax burdens on the citizens. Could this be done somewhere else? I don't know the answer to that. Perhaps the applicant can answer. And also, what does the construction involve? I would suggest the applicant can answer that. And in terms of whether this has been done in the city before, and whether there were any negative impacts, it's been done in this exact same location before, and nobody knows unless you already know.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Okay, if not, I will look for a motion in a second regarding the amendment ordinance 5D.
So motioned.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one small comment. Not only has it been done before, there's actually a major hub in downtown where all of these cables end up in or have 500 South Dixie Highway. It's been there for decades, and nobody has any idea that there's a major data center with all of these cables going across the ocean in downtown Boca. So it's been done before. It's been there for
Now that you just
decades, and
revealed
nobody
that
has
we're-
any idea that
Now
what that
just-
building is for.
Now that you just revealed that we're all going to hook up, we're all going to hook up to it. Yeah. Yeah, plug in your phones. Okay, any other discussion? If not, Jamie, please call the roll.
Ms. Ritchie?
Yes.
Chair Savelle?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Dornblazer?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
And Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you, everyone. Next item is Camino Square Phase 2. Jamie, please read that item into the record.
Camino Square Phase 2, 171 West Camino Real. Consideration of an individual development approval IDA of the City of Boca Raton Community Redevelopment Agency, amending IDA number CRP 1602 as amended by IDA number CRP 1602 R1A for the Camino Square Phase 2 project located on the western approximately 4.54 acre portion of the overall approximately 9.13 acre property generally located at 171 West Camino Real, to authorize a change in use from 37,399 square feet of retail high in 2 buildings to 394 residential units and 8,632 square feet of retail high, consisting of 2,048 square feet of fast food, 2,179 square feet of casual restaurant, and 4,405 square feet of retail in 2 8-story buildings totaling 479,485 square feet, each with a maximum height not to exceed 80 feet 8 inches, with additional architectural features for a maximum total height not to exceed 96 feet 8 inches, and additionally including a 7-story, 291,304 square foot parking structure integrated into Building 2, together with a technical deviation from Section 23-190D Code of Ordinances to reduce the required driveway width from 34 feet to 33 feet, a reduction of 1 foot, at the existing Southwest 3rd Avenue access, considering the abandonment of 2 12-foot wide portions of a utility easement located at the northern portion of the property, and a transfer of 60,255 square feet of office equivalent development from downtown subarea A to downtown subarea G, based upon an equivalency factor for institutional peak hour traffic generating, resulting in approximately 108,880 square feet of office equivalent development remaining in downtown subarea A, and approximately 80,874 square feet remaining in downtown subarea G, including a conversion of uses, providing for repealer, providing an effective date.
Ex parte communications. Mr. Morgan?
I had a brief conversation with Ellie Zacharias about this.
Ms. McDermott?
Same, I spoke to Ellie.
Mr. Mitchell?
Same, I spoke to Ellie and drove by the location.
Ms. Ritchie?
Spoke to Ellie Zacharias.
None?
Oh, I spoke to Ellie Zacharias as well. With that, I will turn it over to Susan Lesser.
Thank you, Chair Seville. Again, for the record, Susan Lesser, Senior Planner. The request before you this evening is for an amendment to IDA number 16, CRP 16-02, as amended for Phase 2 to develop in lieu of the approved 37,399 square feet of retail high in 2 buildings approximately 35 feet tall, 394 residential units in 2 8-story buildings approximately 80 feet 8 inches tall, and approximately 96 feet 8 inches, including all architectural features. The buildings together total approximately 479,485 square feet, and 7 levels of structured parking totaling 291,304 square feet, along with 8,632 square feet of retail high. The request also includes a technical deviation from Section 23-190D, and that's from the City Code of Ordinances, to reduce the required driveway width at the existing Southwest 3rd Avenue access from 34 feet to 33 feet, the abandonment of 2 existing 12-foot wide utility easements, and a transfer of office equivalency and development from downtown subarea A to downtown subarea G, including a conversion of uses. The property is located on approximately 4.54 acres on the western portion of the overall 9.13 acre property, generally located at 171 West Camino Real, and it's located on the east side of Southwest 3rd Avenue and the west side of the Federal East Coast Railroad, or the FEC, and the property is zoned DDRI with a compatible future land use designation of CBD, and it is located in downtown sub-area Ch. This is the overall site plan, and it contains both phases, 1 and 2, and as you can see, the overall acreage is 9.13 acres. Phase 1 consisted of 346 units in 2 buildings, similar to the proposed project that's before you this evening, and the construction has been completed, and no changes to Phase 1 are proposed. The proposed site plan depicts 394 residential units in the 2 buildings. They're 8 stories, as I mentioned, and the 7 levels of structured parking, along with the retail, pardon me, 8,632 square feet of retail high, are going to be located in Building 2. And you can see on the brick-colored bays that is the proposed retail. And 793 parking spaces are proposed in the parking structure. The units will vary in size from approximately 693 square feet to 1,550 square feet, and vehicular access to the residential portion of the site will be provided by one existing full east-west access driveway along Southwest 3rd Avenue, one existing full access driveway on West Camino Real, and one left-in, right-out driveway on the alley just north of West Camino Real. The project requires a total of 40% open space, and 40.37% is provided. And the areas include open to the sky as well as covered open space, again, both in the green and yellow. 7 stories of structured parking are proposed in Building 2, and it provides 731 parking spaces that are required, and 793 spaces are provided. The technical deviation from City Code Section 23190D is related to driveway design standards, and the project traffic consultant provided a request and justification for the technical deviation pursuant to Section 23190K, and based on the documentation provided, the city traffic engineer does not object to the technical deviation in the amount of 1 foot. With regard to the easements, the abandonment of the 2 portions of an existing 12-foot wide utility easement, I've called those out on that slide. They're approximately 168.50 square feet and 135.98 square feet, and they're generally located along the northern portion of the property, adjacent to Building 1. And each of these portions of the existing easement will actually conflict with the location of the proposed building, and as such, those portions of the existing easement are proposed to be abandoned. The 12-foot wide utility easement contains infrastructure for 2 8-inch water mains, and the abandonment of the easements will not be perfected until the work is completed and replaced with 2 new fire hydrants, and staff has no objection to the abandonments that are proposed as part of this application. I've highlighted a few of the elevations, including the north and south elevation of Building 1, the elevations of Building 1 and 2, and the east, south, and west elevations of Building 2. The structured parking height is 71 feet 2 inches and 81 feet 8 inches with all architectural features. And this is the Building 2 north elevation. And the proposed project complies with the DDRI development order. The proposed multifamily residential and retail uses are also consistent and compatible with adjacent land uses. The proposed project will transfer institutional peak hour traffic generating OEs from downtown sub-area A, And the proposed project will convert institutional peak hour traffic generating to residential units of office equivalency development. Staff supports the abandonment of the 2 existing 12-foot wide utility easements as well. The project went before the CAB board for review, and on August 5th, the board recommended approval 5-0. In conclusion, the Development Services Department recommends approval of the IDA application as the project complies with Ordinance 4035, and additionally, the city's urban design consultant, Complete Cities Planning Group, reviewed the project and also found it to be consistent with Ordinance 4035 and all of its appendices. And that concludes my presentation, and I'd be more than happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Ms. Ritchie? Mr. Dorblazer? None. Mr. Mitchell?
None.
Mr. McDermott? Mr. Morgan? Chair has no questions. With that, I will ask the petitioner to come up and make her lengthy presentation.
Very lengthy. Ellie Zacharias, 14 Southeast 4th Street. I'm sure you're all sick of me by now. Thank you.
Never, for the record.
Appreciate that, Mr. Seville. All right, Susan, thank you so much for your thorough presentation. I will be very brief. Just for the benefit of those that were not on the board when we did phase 1, just wanted to give you all a little bit of history. This will be forever what I call the Winn-Dixie Shopping Center. It's approximately 9.1 acres, and this is what it looked like prior to phase 1. Here are some pictures of the structures prior to demolition. So from there, we came in and we secured approval for approximately half of the property, the eastern half, with 346 multifamily units in 2 towers on the eastern side. And these are the renderings that we showed you when we came in for phase 1 approval. The reason I included these pictures is I wanted to show you the quality of the developer, that they actually build and construct what they promised you that they would. So here are some pictures of the project now. I will say they were at, I believe, 98% occupancy within 2 months of CO, which is pretty impressive. As part of phase 1, we were required to build this 8th Street connection, which is there today, which is the only ask this development has, is for a reduction of 1 foot from 34 feet to 33 feet for that drive aisle. And these are actual pictures of the site today. Again, just trying to show the quality of the work and keeping consistent with the renderings provided. These are interiors. No money was spared on the interiors as well. Okay, so now let's talk about phase 2. You still see phase 1 superimposed on the right, just for perspective. On the west side, on the left side, is our proposed phase 2. It will be a total of 394 units. We did want to, while we worked very closely with staff to ensure that there was a commercial component, we have a little over 11,000, actually 11,700. Here, on this corner, we tried to line 3rd Avenue. So right here is retail restaurant. Here is our leasing office. Here is also retail restaurant. So we wanted to line 3rd and 8th. And then on the north building here is what we're calling our business center, where we'll have actual business center and office suites as well. As Susan noted, this is an 8-story building. We did not maximize our development at all. We are asking for no variances. We meet or exceed open space, setbacks, and parking. Again, our only quote-unquote ask is that 1-foot technical deviation. Here is a colored landscape plan, and on the right is some things I certainly love about this development. In my previous application before you all this evening, we talked about pocket parks whenever possible, right? So this project incorporated a pocket park, I think it's 7,600 square feet if memory serves, that was already constructed during phase 1. We are now proposing another courtyard pocket park here, which is just shy of 4,000 square feet. And then we have a linear park to the north That's approximately 345 feet in length. We also have the pool, which you can clearly see that has the barbecue, the grills, and the trellises and the like. So I wanted to remind the board of some improvements that we did during phase one. As you know, this is the downtown, so we are vested for concurrency so road improvements are typically not required, and this one was not either. But FCI residential always like to do the right thing. We had multiple community meetings during phase one, and the traffic was of the utmost concern to the residents at the time. So my client, at his own expense, spent over $2 million to add a second eastbound left turn lane. There was previously only one to go north on Dixie. He also improved the intersection with a bike lane and then an additional third lane, an exclusive eastbound right turn lane. And then we had to work very closely with the railroad to change the massing and the arms and the like. A second improvement, again, already improved, is 3rd Avenue. We had to widen 3rd Avenue. We did a northbound a right turn lane into our property, which previously wasn't there. We installed a median at the city's request, and we provided both a right turn lane and a left turn lane. You cannot go straight at this location. And again, here's that pocket park, a little over 7,000 square feet, already improved. The city has now asked for one additional improvement, which we have agreed to. That is on 3rd Avenue, just north of the improvements that we've already made, and this would be a southbound left turn lane into the development into 8th Street. Here is our one ask for that 1 foot. And then I have some pretty pictures for you all. It will mirror phase one, so you should have a pretty good idea of what phase two will look like. As Susan noted, staff has reviewed and recommends approval due to the extensive network of pedestrian-friendly sidewalks and the thoughtful pedestrian-scaled building and amenities. And that concludes my presentation. My team is here to answer any questions. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one thing I forgot. Ellie makes mistakes sometimes, every once in a while. So it was an oversight on my part, and I sincerely apologize. I did not realize that we originally asked that we have a transfer of OEs from sub-area A. We have been working with the city today, and we're actually between now and CRA, we are going to revise our OE table so that all the transfer comes from sub-area D as in dog. All the conversion is on property on sub-area G. So I'm going to hand this to you all. I knew I was going to forget something. Sorry.
Okay. So you ready for questions?
I am. Go ahead.
Okay.
Lay them on me.
Questions. Ms. Ritchie?
We weren't going to let you forget that. That was my first question.
Thank you.
And then, obviously, you didn't have enough residentials. That's why we're transferring OEs. So is there thought as to schools for the children that will reside there?
Yes, so we've actually already been coordinating with a school board. We have received a SCAD letter. It's actually not... I can't remember. Susan, do you happen to have that number, how much we owe for SCAD? The elementary and middle were under capacity, if memory serves. We had to pay a small nominal amount for the high school.
Actually, I don't believe any contribution was required, but we can double check.
You know what? I think you're right. There was no contribution. So all schools have available capacity for this development.
Okay.
But I will say that the city does require, as of late, that in the lease and purchase agreements, if it's for sale or for lease, this will be for lease, that in the agreements, it's the lease agreement itself with the residents, you specifically have a caveat that just because this is your zone school doesn't mean that's the school you're going to get to go to.
Thank you.
Mr. Dornblaser? Mr. Mitchell? Ms. McDermott? Mr. Morgan? You're getting off very easy tonight.
You thought that was easy?
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak on this item? No? Come on. Were you sworn in? Oh, you can be. Okay. Jamie Wilson. Jamie, please swear this lady in.
Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give at this public hearing will be truthful and accurate?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Alexandra Abelo, and I have just some questions from the city council to you guys, to you to the city council. So something is going on that I don't understand. Maybe you can help me understanding. We're talking about public land. The post office is a public land, isn't it?
No, this is only, you're only
No,
speaking
I'm going
on
to
on this apartment project.
Yeah.
There's no post office on it.
Is this, when did you guys change the ordinance from 4 floors to 8 or to 12? I don't know.
It's not.
I ignore that.
It's not applicable. It's not applicable to this
Because
project.
this is 8 floors. So I need to know, it used to be only 4 floors in the ordinance in Boca Raton, right? So I don't understand when it went up to 8 and 12. Because this project is 8.
Can you answer,
So
Brendan, you respond?
History.
This being downtown, the maximum height since at least the early 90s was 100 feet. And then there's a certain allowance without increasing the overall amount of development to go up to 140 feet. That's been in place since, I believe, 2008. Beyond that, I don't have the specifics of the entire history of height limits, in the city, but I can give you my contact information. You can contact me, and I can help you find those things out, after tonight.
Yeah, because if this is 8 floors, maybe in 1 year will be 20 floors. Because the last picture that I just saw right now, and Ellie just showed us, is like a dream come true from New York City. It looks like it's a beautiful New York, building after building, monster after monster.
They can't build any more than they're getting approval for.
No, but you guys approve everything. I mean, you guys are approving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Everything is approved. So my question was, when did it change all of this? Because I'm an ignorant on these issues, so I just ask a basic question.
Okay. You get Mr. Shad's contact information, and he'll help you get the information.
Yeah, that will be good. And then, is this a specific tower that is going to be constructed? Is this on private land, or is a city?
It's private land.
Private land.
Yes.
Got it, yeah, the private, yeah, we know,
Okay.
but, yeah.
You-
Okay,
Thank you.
that's it, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Please state your name and address again.
John Perlman, 498 Northeast 8th Street. First of all, I would like to motion for this recommendation to be stricken for tonight's vote on the grounds that the sub-area was incorrectly presented to the citizens on the agenda. It said right here, sub-area G, and now we've been notified that that's incorrect information. So the citizens need to review the sub-areas that are going to be changed prior to the meeting. So this needs to be revised to be correct before a vote should be taken on this. Secondly, it's amazing to me, when the downtown plan was laid out and created by the people who did it a while back, the founders of the city, who allocated the office space numbers to the various subsections. I don't think they intended that a private lobbyist / consultant would be able to come in, at the behest of the profits of private apartment developers and provide recommendations to this board to move office space square footage space allocations from one sub-area to the next, and for these recommendations to be approved without hesitancy, without even a flinch from this board, and that a lobbyist can come in and reallocate, because again, all of these all of these square footage numbers, this was done for a reason. That's why we have the sub areas. The intention was to manage traffic, to manage livability for the people of Boca. And here we are, someone's coming in from a private company at the behest of an apartment building developer to enable them to profit, and telling you that we need to shift these numbers here, shift them there, shift them from one sub area here. They're asking for the transfer of over 60,000 square feet. That's a lot of square footage. Telling you, okay, let's move it here. So the next time they're going to, Ms. Zacharias is going to come in and let's shift it there. And then this board is going to, you're just going to approve it, not even flinch. And that's scary. That's very scary. I mean, the gentleman, Arnold Savell, he says it's lovely to see you, Ms. Zacharias, every time she steps to the podium. That's alarming to me. And meanwhile, then he follows it up with a vote in her favor to be shuffling square footage from here to here at her request. So, a lot of things are coming out. As I'm a new resident, I just built a beautiful home here in Boca Raton, and you invested a lot of money here, and it's very sad and scary to see what's going on. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and look for a motion and a second for approval. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Jamie, please call the roll.
Chair Savell?
Yes?
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Dornblaser?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
No.
And Ms. Ritchie?
Yes.
Pass 5-1.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. The last item is a quasi-judicial variance regarding the Tuttle residence. Jamie, would you please read that item into the record?
Tuttle Residence, 310 Northeast 5th Avenue. A resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Boca Raton considering for the approximately 0.77 acre property generally located at 310 Northeast 5th Avenue, a variance from Section 28-1356A11 Code of Ordinances to allow a wall with a height of up to 10 feet along the north and south property lines in lieu of the maximum allowed height of 6 feet.
Okay. Thank you. Tori, are you going to explain that? Thank you. Well, was there any ex parte communications with anyone on this? I didn't think so.
No.
Yeah.
I spoke to the petitioners.
Did you?
Before the meeting.
Okay. Are the petitioners here? Okay. Okay. Tori, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, Tori Boone, zoning manager. I'll be presenting the wall height variance request. The property is located at 310 Northeast 5th Avenue along the Intercoastal in the R1B Single Family Zoning District. The applicant purchased the property in 2015. The northern lot began illegally adding dirt to its property without a permit, raising its elevation from as low as 2.5 feet to 5.5 feet. However, the dirt was only brought in towards the center of the property and has not been completely filled in, and as a result, the dirt has not been applied to the perimeter of their property, leaving portions of the elevation along the adjoining property line adjacent to the applicant's property sitting up to 4 feet lower. Due to significant water damage after a rainstorm in May of 2022, the applicant rebuilt their home. While only the buildings are required to meet established grade requirements, the applicant chose to raise the property's grade to 8 feet. 6 inches above the northern lot's elevation to avoid future flood damage. The southern lot is currently under construction. The elevation along the adjoining property line adjacent to the applicant's property sits as low as 3.5 feet. The varying elevations along the property lines compared with the property and the adjacent lots reach a maximum of 4 feet in elevation. Pursuant to Section 28-1356A6 Code of Ordinances, the height of a fence or wall within a required yard is determined by measurement from the lowest grade within 3 feet on either side of the fence and wall. To meet the code, the property would only be able to reach a wall height of 2 feet from their perspective. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow a wall with a height of up to 10 feet along the north and south property lines in lieu of the maximum allowed height of 6 feet. Because the existing grades of the portions of the abutting lots to the north and south of the property are substantially lower than the property's grade, the proposed wall measures up to 10 feet high from the perspective of those adjoining properties, but 6 feet high from the perspective of the property. The northern lot added dirt, as I mentioned earlier, to its central portion, creating an unintended slope that redirected stormwater runoff towards the applicant's property. Areas of the northern lot adjacent to the applicant property are still at the original grade, which is approximately 4 feet lower than the newly raised central sections. The southern lot is currently undergoing construction. The discrepancy in elevation presents challenges when it comes to measuring the height of the property's proposed walls. The owners of both the northern lot and southern lot have submitted letters of support for the application. To further manage stormwater runoff and prevent it from flowing onto adjacent properties, the applicant was required to design paving, grading, and drainage systems that integrate seamlessly with the surrounding area. Given that the applicant has provided sufficient evidence of special and unique conditions, and the neighbors directly adjacent to the property are in favor of the variance, staff recommends approval with conditions for the requested variance, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions for Tori? Mr. Dornblaser?
So with the variance, I see you noted before that they have to submit grading improvements and all of that. Is that part of the variance, saying that they have they already done those improvements, or is that going to be part of putting?
So they already have a single-family residential home under review or it's already actually being built. So with those permit plans for the single-family home,
That was already addressed?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Are the adjacent properties under construction currently?
Only the southern lot.
Do we know if it's going to be brought to the same grade?
And I'm going to go back to my illustration here.
Okay.
You could see the southern lot right along the property line. It's still very low, but they raised their foundation to meet the 7 feet as required by the flood zone.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Ms. McDermott? Mr. Morgan? No? Chair has no questions. With that, I'll ask the petitioner to want to make a presentation. Are you Mr. Tuttle or
Yes,
from
good
Abrams
evening.
Law?
I'm their attorney, Ryan Abrams.
Okay.
Good evening. I think there's a presentation that should be coming up. Let's see. Is it? Okay, great. Wait a minute. Go back here. Okay. So my name is Ryan Abrams. I'm the attorney for the petitioners. We're here on a request for a variance to allow for a wall to be constructed that is going to be what the code normally would allow, which is 6 feet from the perception of the property owner, 6 feet from their property. The issue that happened here is that this is a property that had to be raised. It was, as you heard from the excellent presentation of Ms. Boone, the previous home had to be demolished in 2022 because there was a flooding event from a terrible rainstorm. So now that it had to be rebuilt, it had to be raised up to the 7-foot level, elevation level, and because of that, there's a discrepancy because the lot to the north is undeveloped, it's vacant, and so the property line, at the property line on the northern side, it's approximately a 4-foot difference. So from the perspective of the applicant, it's a 6-foot wall, but from the other side, it appears as a 10-foot wall. However, that's going to change as over time. When the north lot gets developed, they're going to add fill, and that will fill in, and they have the option to even it out when they do so. So this is just an aerial view of the property. On the east side is the intracoastal, and on the west side is Northeast 5th Avenue. So I'll go through the variance criteria because there's 6 criteria that have to be met to qualify for a variance, and we submit that our application and the facts in the record do show that we meet those criteria. A and B can be considered together. They essentially just require that we show that there are unique conditions on the property and that they are not directly attributable to actions of the owner. And here the property is in a special hazard flood zone. It's AE6. Again, it does require that it be built up to 7-foot elevation. The Northeast 5th Avenue area has problems with stormwater drainage and flooding, and during rain events has on occasion or quite often had bad flooding events, as this image shows. These are some images of what occurred in 2022 when there was a bad rainstorm that led to some significant flooding on the property and ultimately caused the destruction of the home. This was actually exacerbated by the fact that the northern lot, its previous owners had added fill to the property, and the fill was added unevenly, but the property used to be, the water from Northeast Fifth Avenue used to drain through that property into the intercoastal. And once the fill was added, that flow of water, that gravity drainage ceased, and the water ended up piling more into our property, my client's property. So the result was there was a buildup of water during rain events more than even before, and it became even more important to elevate this property, and that's why they ultimately did, not only just to comply with FEMA standards. So this is the site plan. As you can see on the north and south side, the boundary lines are where that privacy wall is going to go. It's a 6-foot privacy wall that's going to be on top of the retaining wall. The retaining wall is obviously there to keep in the dirt, keep in the fill, and the foundation of the home sits on top of that grade, and the surrounding grade is even with the, or about even with the elevation of the home. This is an elevation, the west elevation of the home. As you can see, it's 8-foot foundation level at the base of the home. In this image, we got a survey that shows the elevation, the differences between the north lot, the south lot, and as you can see, there's a discrepancy. I guess you can't really see it too well on this image, but what it shows is that on the north boundary line, the lowest grade is 2.5 feet, and on our property shared with the boundary line shared with the north lot, the grade is at 7.1 at its highest point. So that's approximately a 4-foot difference, and that's why we have the issue we do here. The south lot is under construction. They're going to add some more fill. It's going to end up being about a 2-foot difference in grade, but it has to even up with the north lot. So there are going to be, the grade is the same on both sides, approximately 7 feet at the boundary line. These images show that the drainage grates are on site throughout the property. The code requires that stormwater drainage be retained. Stormwater runoff must be retained on the property. So there are actually exfiltration trenches that are underground connected to these grates. So the water that ends up on the property is going to be drained into the ground. It's not going to go off into adjacent properties. So that issue would be mitigated. And this is the civil engineering drawings that show the location of those exfiltration trenches. This is an image just showing currently these are rebars sticking out from, this is a view facing the north lot, and those rebars are sticking out from the retaining wall. The rebars are about 3.5 foot tall, so that just shows you from the vantage point of the petitioner's property, there's no, that's the line of sight that they're going to see. There's no protection or there's no blocking visibility from the neighboring property from the road. And it would be lower than that. It would be 2 feet. So if we had to do exactly what the code were to require when measuring from the lowest point within 3 feet of either side of the boundary line. So that just shows you how it would look, and it would be even smaller than that. This image just shows that the fill was added at the north lot toward the center and to the side at the front side of it, and that's what blocked the water flow, which caused and exacerbated the flooding issues. Criteria C and D just require that a literal application is going to deprive the petitioners of a right that's common to those who are in the zoning district, and that it's going to deprive them of a reasonable use of the property. And privacy is one of the most fundamental rights one of the most fundamental property rights that are recognized. And so it's something that's recognized in the code as well and the comprehensive plan. And so for them to be able to have reasonable use of their backyard and throughout their property and be able to have quiet enjoyment of their property without being seen openly from the road and from neighboring properties, they require a wall that actually is reasonable in height, and 2 feet wouldn't be reasonable. 6 feet is what the code normally contemplates, and because of the FEMA standards, they did not cause it. This image is just another view that shows the low height of what the wall could look like. Again, it would be even lower than those rebars are, since those rebars are approximately 3.5 feet tall. And that's a view of the southern property that's under construction right now. For E, the requirement is that the granting of the variance can't be against the public welfare. And I think if it's something that the neighbors have supported that are directly adjacent, then it's not going to be against the public interest. The neighbors on both sides are supportive of this request. And so I think that indicates it's not against the public interest at all. We also, not that every variance is different, right? But, and I wouldn't suggest that one sets a precedent, but we did find another variance that was granted on similar circumstances at a nearby property at 192 Northeast Spanish Trail. And it was just last year, and in that case, it was also a property that had to be elevated, and they had that same issue with not being able to have proper privacy in their backyard, and so, and also to protect their property from intruders. So that variance was granted as well, unanimously. So that also shows this is not something that's against the public interest. Lastly, the granting of the variance cannot be contrary to the objectives of the comprehensive plan, and because of our on-site stormwater drainage, we satisfy the comprehensive plan's objectives and policies in favor of stormwater management, and also the comprehensive plan values and prioritizes protection of private property rights, which this is definitely in furtherance of that. They wouldn't be able to really use their pool in a comfortable way when your neighbors can see you, when people from the road can see you. So we would just respectfully request that the board support this request and find that we meet the elements in the code for this variance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Abrams?
No.
No? Anyone? Thank you. Okay, it's a public hearing. Does anybody else wishing to speak on this matter?
Before my time starts, I'd like to, can you just pull up the slide, the first slide of your presentation on the history of the property?
Whose slide do you want to see?
Yeah, the first slide, giving background conditions from...
The city slide? Or
Yeah, the city slide from regarding 2022. Okay, start my time. 498 Northeast 8th Street. The northern lot began illegally adding dirt to its property without a permit, raising its elevation from as low. So is this lot, is that the lot in question, or is that the neighbor?
That's the neighboring lot.
Okay, all right. All right, listen, I mean, I'm nearby, I live near them. I think that if you're gonna raise it to 10 feet, you need to do it across the board. I want a 10-foot fence. Everybody in Boca might want a 10-foot fence. So I think if you approve this, I think it can't, you know, it needs to be across the board. It should be 10 feet for everyone. I'm familiar with the property, the precedent case of Kevin Meany that they cited. That was a very different situation. That property was sloped from between him and his neighbor. So he built the fence, but due to the sloping of the property, it was a natural slope, obviously, not having to do with illegal adding of dirt, and therefore they needed it because of a natural slope from one property to the next. If this property added, you know, additional dirt, then grant the variance to them. Let them build the fence, because this is the culprit right here. He shouldn't be coming asking for a fence raise. This neighbor, their neighbor, they need to address the issue. He shouldn't be asking. They illegally added the dirt, negatively impacting him. Why is he coming here to request for a fence? This neighbor should be building the fence in between the properties and paying the expense. There's no need to grant him a variance. He shouldn't be paying for the fence. It should be this property owner here, the culprit of the illegal adding of dirt to its property without a permit, raising its elevation and negatively impacting him. This person should build the fence in the median line of the two properties at 10 feet, and he should pay for it and be done with it. But to grant an exception when everyone else in Boca has a 6-foot fence for this person, that shouldn't be the case. Also, you can use shrubbery you can get bamboo, you can get clusia, you can get plants that grow to 10 feet. There should not be an exception made to give people fences higher than 6 feet unless it applies to everyone. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Okay. Okay.
Hello, I'm Monica Tuttle. I am at 310 Northeast Fifth Avenue. I am, along with my husband, the property owner. I'm sorry I was not prepared to speak. I just wanted to kind of respond back to John Perlman's remarks, if I may. Hi, John. We're your neighbor. We've met. With all due respect, John, I would love to invite you over to our backyard. Unfortunately, the picture was not shown of the second-story huge window from our neighbor to the south staring completely down at our pool. We have 3 teenage daughters and a young son. I do not feel comfortable with my daughters in our backyard in a swimming pool with allowing our next-door neighbors. So you mentioned the slope situation with the prior variance that was approved. We have the same situation. It's a slope. If I put in a 10, 12-foot podocarpus, that is not going to block the view of our pool. It'd be one thing if the neighbors were against this 10-foot wall. Both of them have signed off on it. Both of them have agreed. We, like you, like community, and we are very, we have gotten to know those neighbors a little bit, not a lot, but we have spoken. They are very aware of the variance that we are requesting, and they've approved it. So I'm just not quite, I see where you're coming from, but we are in a very, very peculiar situation where we had to go up higher because we completely flooded out. Back in 2022, we lost our home. Water flooding in at every entry point. We had no choice but to demo and to rebuild. So again, I welcome you over to come see our backyard. Maybe that'll give you a better idea of what's going on back there. But I need to have some kind of privacy back there. And the podocarpus, unfortunately, is not going to cut it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? If not, I'll close the public hearing and look for a motion and a second to approve this variance.
So motioned.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, Jamie, please call the roll.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Dornblaser?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie?
Yes.
And Chair Savelle?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Okay. Next, it's a public request section. Does anybody from the public wish to speak about anything at all? Okay. Seeing none, okay. Do we have a director's report tonight?
I have a long and detailed report.
Cool.
I do not. I have no report.
Okay. All right. So with that, at 9:43, we are adjourned.